Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is reincarnation of Obito part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. No. This isn't happening. This is just a nightmare, a very terrifying one at that. No matter what he thought about his eyes, I playing tricks on him, the image in front of him never changed. No matter how much he pinched himself, or how much he squeezed his eyes shut and willed the horrifying image to go away, it stayed the same. Kakashi's hand that held his lightning blade, Chidori, was through Rin's chest. He watched as his black, onyx eyes bled red with 3 spinning kamas of Sharingan, taking in every detail of how his teammate, the one whom he grudgingly once admitted to be his rival and best friend, murdered the girl he loved the most. Kakashi's Sharingan eye widened as Rin gasped, and muttered in a broken voice, "Kakashi." Something inside of him shattered in a million pieces as blood trickled down from her mouth, as her eyes fluttered close, her body swaying from her one foot to other. Kakashi pulled out his hand swiftly, like the cold-blooded murderer he was. A part of him screamed inside of him in agony, in pain of heartbreak and treachery, and Rin's body fell on the ground over her back, and lay motionless. Something inside both the boys snapped, as each of their red eyes of Sharingan morphed into something more powerful, something that is called as the Mangekyo Sharingan. Kakashi's eye drooped as he felt the extent of his chakra exhaustion, and soon, he fell down, unconscious. The mist ninjas surrounding Rin and Kakashi cursed under their breath. They didn't think the brat had it in him to kill the girl before she reached Konoha and unleashed the 3 tails in the village hidden in the leaves. Their plan was going perfectly when they had kidnapped the girl and sealed the 3 tails inside her, and letting his teammate take her again back to their village. Their plan was ruined when the girl jumped in front of the kid's lightning attack. Damn tree huggers, what do they teach their kids these days? But Obito didn't know that it wasn't Kakashi's fault that Rin jumped in front of his Chidori, and got herself killed. No, he just saw Kakashi killing Rin, which is what Madara and Zetsu had wanted. As his body went numb and a bone-settling coldness settled in his limbs, something unnatural happened. Obito's soul got split into 2 parts, one part which believed there has to be a reason for Kakashi to break his promise of protecting Rin and murdering her, the part who loved Rin, competed with Kakashi, never abandoned his comrades and wanted to become a Hokage, the part which was Obito Uchiha of Team 7. The other part was darker and twisted and wanted revenge for death of his Rin, his sweet Rin, the part who wanted to destroy Kakashi and everything in this world. The part which was later called as Tobi. He promised Rin he would avenge her. He would destroy Kakashi and the Hidden Leaf. And the beginning of the destruction would start from this very place, where Rin had died. He screamed in agony as he killed every single one of the Mist Ninjas, who attacked him thinking that he was the reinforcement sent to help out Kakashi, all the while suppressing Obito's soul, who begged him to stop this massacre. If Rin can't live, then no one gets the right to live as well. Tobi knew what he had to do. He had to unleash the 9 tails when Kushina's seal gets weakened due to her labor, and then he can control the 9 tails with his Mangekyo Sharingan, and let him rampage over the Hidden Leaf, and then capture it. But a part of him relented from doing so, a part of him that was Obito. Because it was Minato-sensei and Kushina-ne, who always believed in him even when everyone thought he was a disgrace for an Uchiha, and always made him strive to be better. How could he do it to them? If he unleashed the 9 tails, there is no doubt Kushina-ne will die due to the labor and the broken seal, and Minato-sensei would never sit idle as the fox rampages on Konoha, and would gladly die trying to save the village. He felt uneasy as Obito tried his best to make him stop from acting on his plans. White Zetsu could tell Tobi was feeling uneasy. "What happened?" he asked. Black Zetsu scoffed and sneered, "Are you going to back out now?" No, Tobi couldn't back out now. Capturing the 9 tails was the first part of the plan. When all the 9 Biju are collected, then they will start Project Screamy, and then everything will be fine. Rin will be back again, and everyone will be happy. He was doing this for Rin. His Rin. Anyway, when Project Screamy will be completed, everything will be fine once again. Just like old days. So he suppressed Obito inside his mind and locked it up in a very dark corner, as he clenched his fist and he said, "No, I won't." As Kushina's screams rang around the clearing, Tobi prepared to attack. It's time. The Shinigami was very lazy. Not many people know that, of course. His reputation would go down the drain if this little info ever leaked out, but those who did knew quite well about his antics. There was quite a widespread rumor among immortals that the Shinigami must have been a Nara when he had been alive, which, by the way, would have been millions of years ago, or something like that, because honestly, the Shinigami could beat any Nara in laziness. Of course it was only a rumor, and hence no one had proof. But still, the immortals, like fate and time, knew Shinigami's little antics. The spirit was way too lazy for his own good. This was the very reason why the Shinigami was not very happy. Not because fate and time knew he was lazy, since they've been the Terror Trio for centuries, and hence knew everything about each other, so he had no need to worry, but it was because of a particular soul. Or you can say two. Whatever. The thing was, since the moment Obito Uchiha's soul had been split into two, it has become a headache for the Shinigami. One part of the soul, known as Tobi, kept repressing the other one, such that now the Obito part of soul was on the verge of dying. But the Shinigami didn't want to extract that part of the soul, because it would be such a drag to go twice to retract the other part of the very same soul. Let's just pretend that he didn't say that. Hence, the Shinigami was not happy. He figured he will retract the two split souls at the same time, and not go twice to extract either of the soul any time and waste the precious time he had to either ask fate for a date, or to torture the souls he had captured. It has definitely nothing to do with the two women, Rin and Kushina, forcing him to find out a solution of this problem without retracting the Obito soul to the realm of the dead. Women are so troublesome. SSH, don't let fate hear you that, or she's gonna kick your ass, literally. And it definitely hurts like hell. So, he can't retract Obito's soul now. But he also can't let Tobi suppress Obito again and again, or he'd have no choice but to retract Obito. Which left him only one option: placing Obito's soul into another body with a soul that is capable of compromising with his soul. And he had just the perfect soul in mind. Fukasaku and Shima, Pa Toad and Ma Toad, were definitely startled when Gamamara the Great Toad Sage opened his eyes in alarm, and called out in his feeble voice, "Fukasaku, Shima, bring Jiraiya boy to me." "What happened?" Fukasaku asked in alarm. The Great Toad Sage looked down at the little figure of Pa Toad and said in his raspy voice, but the urgency of the matter was not lost on them. "The prophecy is broken." Sakura hears a voice in her head. At first, it was nothing much, really. It had been just a word here and there, or a comment at the most inappropriate situation, but the point was that Sakura knew that she heard a voice inside her head. And it always sounded like a boy's. Sakura should be perturbed by this fact, but she wasn't. She was just glad that she had the strange voice backing up in her head. Whenever she was hurt, the voice soothed her. When she was scared, it calmed her down. When she was sad, it cheered her up. When she was angry, it helped her cool down, or urge her up to beat the offender into a pulp. But that's not the point. In short, the voice was her guardian angel. It scolded her when she was wrong, helped her out when she was stuck in something, and teased her when she embarrassed herself, like when she had declared her love for Sasuke very loudly in the kunoichi class, and had turned beet red when most of the girls started insulting her along with Ino, her best friend, and the remaining girls who weren't interested in Sasuke at that time had made fun of her. The voice was always there with her whenever she needed it, and she was glad for it. But it was always brief, and always in her mind only, and had not much influence outside it. But that changed a fateful day, which also happened to be the day of her 6th birthday. Sakura just stared. And stared. And stared. Honestly, they weren't even remotely interesting, hideous even, if you ever asked her opinion, and she was sure that if she ever went anywhere near Inopig wearing these, she was sure her former best friend, now rival, would cackle at these hideous things and insult her. Her obvious reaction should be to throw this monstrosity away, and demand if her family had gone nuts, but unfortunately she couldn't. First, and the more logical reason, was that her grandma stood only a few meters away, gauging her expressions nervously, as if wishing that her granddaughter like her present, because honestly the woman didn't even get much time to ponder over a birthday gift for her only granddaughter's birthday, let alone buy one, and not to throw a tantrum like she usually does. And really, how can she disappoint her grandma when she was looking at her with such a hopeful expression? And the second reason, which didn't even make any sense to her, was because her brain had short-circuited. Literally. She just stared blankly at them, not knowing what to do. Her inner was being suspiciously quiet. Usually, he wouldn't stop complaining about one thing or another, being the loud-mouthed idiot he is so really. It was very strange that he was suddenly quiet, and eerily so. What was so interesting in some orange goggles anyways? "So, did you like it?" Sayuri Haruno asked as she eyes her granddaughter nervously, who had been staring at the gift for about quite some times now. "I love it," she said, her voice turning hoarse slightly as a lone tear rolled down her cheeks from her right eye. Sakura didn't know why, but Inner insisted on wearing the orange goggles everywhere. At first, she had thought that Inner would soon get fed up with his new obsession with these goggles, but boy, was she wrong. She had taken down her goggles for bath this morning, and Inner started ranting in her mind about how careless she was being, and what if she forgot where she had kept the goggles, and he even had the gall to say that what if the poor goggles would run away from her, thinking that she had abandoned them. For Kami's sake, these were just goggles. It's not like they'd suddenly get a pair of legs out of nowhere. What was so special about these goggles anyways? Even though Sakura won't ever agree, but truth was that she has gotten to like the orange goggles. True, Grandma Sayuri has really the worst color choice ever, because orange, seriously, she had come to like the bright shade of her orange goggles. Even though it clashes with almost all of her pretty dresses, except the orange skirt, which once again is because of the courtesy of Grandma Sayuri she liked wearing her goggles. It made Inner happy, and Sakura liked it when Inner was happy. When he is happy, he is less ranting, and more funny and helpful. She may not like those orange goggles as much as Inner did, but it doesn't mean it gave others right to make fun of her Inner's precious goggles. I thought you'd have a better fashion sense than this, forehead. Ino sneered at Sakura, who sat alone in the field and was arranging flowers for the kunoichi class, like many of the girls were doing under the eyes of Akira-sensei. I mean orange goggles, really? Sakura looked up at Ino, unimpressed, and said, and what's wrong with my goggles, Ino pig? I think they're quite cute. Yeah, you tell her, outer. Her Inner cheered for her. Ino snorted and said, except for the fact that they're orange, and hideous, and clash horribly with your outfit? Nothing. It makes your large forehead stand out even more. Sakura bristled at her comment. Hey! How dare she insult my goggles? Inner screeched out in outrage. She just insulted us and all you can think about is of those hideous goggles? Sakura thought back disbelievingly. My goggles are not hideous. Inner grumbled about how girls these days have zero fashion sense. Sakura snorted inwardly and thought back, yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes. No. Yes. No. You dash. Ino's shrill voice cut through their mental argument. If you keep wearing that thing, then Sasuke would never even look at you. Ouch. That was a low blow. Even though he never liked it, Inner knew how much Sakura adores Sasuke. It almost always reminded him of how smitten he had been with Rin. And he never got to tell his true feelings to Rin, who had died because of Kaka. Stop right there, no need to go through that entire mental trauma once again. Now's not the time to think about that shit. He felt sick of how Ino treated Sakura. Sure, Sakura can be sometimes annoying and ill-tempered, but he knew that all this crap was started by Ino. Sakura had thought of Ino as her best friend, since that one time when she scared away her bullies and had given her a red ribbon as a token of their friendship. But when Sakura confessed her feelings for Sasuke to her, which he still thinks is just puppy love, and nothing else, Ino began to get distant, and even started helping out Ami and her friends to bully Sakura. If it hadn't been for him, her Inner, she'd be still that meek little girl who was too shy to speak to anyone, thinking that others would make fun of her slightly larger than normal forehead. To think that once best friends would turn out to be rivals just because of a puny little thing like love. And it wasn't even love, per se. It was just an obsession. He was sure this phase would pass. He hoped it would. Even though it wasn't true love per se, Ino had no right to hurt Sakura's feelings like that. No one, other than him, was allowed to criticize Sakura like that. Being pretty is not everything in this world. Ino was taken aback when she heard Sakura's voice, which was slightly hoarser than usual. It was as if a dark aura surrounded her, and her emerald green eyes glared at her, especially her right one. The flower bouquet in her hands was crumpled by her tight grip. Ino took a step back in fear when Sakura said, beauty means nothing if you're rotten from inside. If Sasuke cares about my outer beauty, then he doesn't deserve me. Beauty comes from within, Ino, remember it. Saying this, she turned around and stormed out of the field, leaving a baffled Ino behind. Oh no! I'm late for class. Sakura screeched as she quickly grabbed her towel and clothes and rushed into bathroom. And whose fault is that? Yours. What? How is it my fault? I wasn't the one who insisted on reading a romance novel till midnight? You could have woken me up on time, at least, Inner. And what fun would that be, outer? I hate you. You wish. Sakura growled under her breath as she got ready as soon as possible, all the while arguing with Inner, and quickly ran out of the house, ignoring her breakfast since she was getting late. At least have breakfast, you idiot. We didn't even eat dinner last night because of that dieting of yours. And you're only 6. If you keep this up, you're gonna starve us to death. Oh, hush you. Go back right now and finish breakfast, outer. But Iruka-sensei will give us detention if we are late. And I don't want to look bad in front of Sasuke. Damn you and your Sasuke. Inner. Don't say a bad word about Sasuke. Sorry. Her inner squeaked out. She just shook her head fondly and took a shortcut to the academy. She was nearing the academy when Inner suddenly interrupted her train of thoughts, which were all about Sasuke, obviously. Hey, look! What? She turned her head towards the direction Inner pointed to her, and found herself looking at an old woman who was carrying a heavy bag of groceries. The woman was panting heavily, as she dragged the bag with her. Sakura felt sympathy for the old woman. She'd have helped the woman, but she was already getting late for her class, hence she didn't have the time to help anyone out. Don't you think we should help her? But we're already late for class and Irika-sensei would be proud of you since you helped out another person in need. We are training to become a ninja, aren't we? And don't ninjas protect the village and everyone in it? So shouldn't we help out those who need our help? But if I'm late I will be punished. And then Sasuke would never even talk to me and Do you ever think of anyone except Sasuke? He never talks to us anyways. It's not like he'd suddenly start talking to you if you rush towards your class now. And really, are you going to leave behind a helpless old woman just because of Sasuke? What if it had been Grandma Sayuri instead of some random elder woman? Would you have done the same thing then, Outer? Sakura froze up at his comment. She then sighed and thought back, alright, but I don't want to be later than I already am. Don't worry, it would only take a minute or two to help the old lady, and then we'll be back at the academy before even Irika-sensei knows it. Oh boy, was he so wrong. Sakura, where have you been? You are late by 2 hours. Irika yelled at the pink-haired girl, who just squeaked out and bowed to him in apology. I'm so sorry, Irika-sensei. I was carrying a bag of groceries for an old lady and lost track of time, Sakura said as she bowed down to him once again. Irika blinked his eyes in shock and said in a suspicious tone, you didn't meet Kakashi on your way here by any chance, have you? Sakura just looked back at him with confusion. Sensei? It didn't help the matter that Inner was suddenly deathly quiet in her mind, which was quite opposite of how she had been ranting in her mind about how he didn't like Sakura fantasying about Sasuke in her mind, which was his territory. Irika pinched the bridge of his nose and said with a sign, nothing. Just go to your seat and be on time from now on, okay? Alright, Sensei. Sorry, I'm late. A little girl's kitten got stuck in a tree and I had to rescue it. I helped an old man cross the street and then carry his bags to his house, and lost track of time. Sorry. I was weeding out old lady Hana's garden and got late. Sorry, Sensei. Old man Shuya asked me to clean his roof, and I couldn't say no. Hee. I'm late again? I swear it's not my fault. The orphanage children wanted me to play with them, and didn't let me go for hours. Sensei, you remember that old lady Honora who manages that bookstore in the north part of Leaf Village, right? She asked me to take care of her bookstore while she spends some time with her grandson who is only here for 2 days, and that's why I'm late. I'm so sorry, Sensei. Sorry, Sensei, Enough, Sakura. Irika yelled at her, with his face red with anger. This is the 11th time in this month that you've been late for class. Per Irika, he was having a really bad day. First he woke up on the wrong side of his bed, then spilled his coffee over his shirt because of which he had to change his uniform again, misplaced his grading paper somewhere in the staff room such that he could find it nowhere, and then he had to deal with Naruto, who had painted the school walls orange. And now another student of his is getting out of hands with her lateness. He had had enough shit for one day. As a punishment, you will stay back after class for your detention. Sakura froze up. Never in her life had she got detention ever. This is not fair. She was just only late by an hour today. This is way better than the last time when she was late by 3 hours. How can Irika-sensei do this to her? But-sensei I don't want to hear any more excuses from you, Sakura. Sakura's lips quivered and her eyes filled with tears. She didn't want to go to detention. She had heard horrible rumors about detentions. She didn't want to go to detention. But if she didn't, they'd tell her parents about her tardiness, or worse, expel her from academy. What will her parents think of her now? Will they be angry? Disappointed? And what about Sasuke? Would he be worried for her? He must be, right? She looked at Sasuke from the corner of her eyes and realized that Sasuke was looking out of the window, not even caring what was going on in the class. He didn't care about her at all. Or about anyone else. It's so cruel, isn't it? She cared so much about Sasuke, yet the boy didn't even care about her one bit. It's like she didn't exist to him. Maybe she didn't. Oh, Sakura. She blocked Inner's comforting voice, not willing to listen to him. He had been right from the start, hasn't he? He had told her not to waste her time with Sasuke, because he knew didn't care for her at all. He even told her to forget about Sasuke when that one time she had gathered up enough courage to confess her feelings to Sasuke and the boy had just brushed her off and called her annoying. But still, she tried harder to impress him, in hopes that one day Sasuke would talk to her and acknowledge her, but no! He never even looked her way. So she really meant nothing to him, does she? A tear slid down her cheek as she nodded to her sensei and bowed down to him. Alright, sensei. Sakura furiously scratched the floor of the classroom with her scrub, all the while screaming profanities at Sasuke inside her mind, which honestly wasn't much since she was a 6-year-old, and hence didn't know much curse words, all the while Inner comforted her with his soothing voice. Her Inner may be an idiot most of the time, but he was also compassionate, and that was more than enough for her. Usually, she'd ran out her frustrations to get out her anger, but she can't do that now since she wasn't alone here. Iruka-sensei had given detention to her and another boy from her class, by the name of Naru something. Honestly, she didn't know about his boy much. He was the class clown, hence she had always tried to stay away from him so that she wasn't influenced by his stupidity. After all, Inner stupidity was enough to last her a lifetime. Hey! Some strange creak and clang sound interrupted her mental rants, and she looked up to see the blonde boy doing something with wires. Where did he get them anyway? He was hanging around the wires, arranging them to the door, and attaching something to the wires. What is it? Some kind of dung bombs or something? She was torn between ignoring him and asking him about what he was doing. In the end, her curiosity got better of her, and she dropped the scrub into the bucket of water and walked towards the blonde boy. She waited for him to turn around, but after 5 minutes, when he still didn't acknowledge her presence, she tapped his shoulder and asked, "Hey, what are you doing?" The blonde boy screamed in surprise, making her help in shock and step back from him. The boy lost his balance as he tripped on the ground, head first. He squeezed his eyes shut and groaned as he sat up and turned towards her. She was about to help him up, but then he opened his blah 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 eyes and she felt her heart leap to her throat. Her mind blanked out, and suddenly an image of an older blonde man occurred before her, instead of the blonde boy. She croaked out hoarsely, when she finally found enough courage to speak up. Minato-sensei? Minato-sensei? Who? What dash? Where? The blonde boy exclaimed as he looked to and fro around them, and then gave Sakura a weird look. He didn't see anywhere around here. Who is she talking to? He scratched the back of his head and asked sheepishly, "Hey, I didn't know there was any teacher by the name of Minato-sensei in our academy." Her mind whirled with thoughts that were not her own, all of them laced with sadness and guilt. She did not understand even a bit of what was happening, just the fact that her inner seemed to be miffed about something and was going out of control. When her headache seemed to get worse, she whimpered in pain and clutched her head, and screamed in her mind, "Inner! Stop! You're hurting me!" That seemed to do the trick, as Inner immediately took charge and banned the thoughts away in a corner of her mind, leaving poor Sakura nursing a headache, and some irritation in her right eye. What the hell just happened? She asked to her Inner, but it seems like he is not in the mood to answer her question. Huffing at his lack of response, she looked at the blonde boy in front of her, who was waving his hand in front of her. What? She snapped at the boy, who jumped back in fright. Ano, you just suddenly started looking at nothing creepily, and did not even answer me even when I called you, Naruto said as he huffed. Sakura shrugged and said, whatever. The blonde boy squinted his blue eyes at her and said, "You're weird." Thanks for stating the obvious, she said sarcastically, rubbing her right eye a bit as the irritation still did not go away. Gah, looks like something must have gotten into her right eye. She'd just have to wash it with cold water. By the way, what are you doing with these wires and dung bombs? She asked in curiosity, as she remembered why she had approached the blonde boy in the first place. The boy smiled deviously and said with a foxy grin, "I'm setting up a prank for Iruka-sensei. As soon as he enters through the door, the trap will trigger and boom." He told her his plans animatedly and moved his hands accordingly. Sakura took a look at the trap with narrowed eyes, and then said haughtily, "It won't work." What? Naruto bristled as his face turned red with anger. Of course it will. No, it won't, Sakura said in a sing-song voice. Naruto growled angrily and pointed his finger rudely at her. Do you want to pick up a fight? You're on. Sakura sighed exasperatedly. No, you idiot. Can't you see, the way you've arranged the wires had left lots of areas wide open. If Iruka-sensei enters, the trap won't trigger because his ankle won't even touch your wire. Besides, the shining of metal wire would give away your trap. Being a Chunin-level ninja he is bound to have quick reflexes, and hence would step back or dodge the wire. She explained to him dutifully like a nerdy bookworm she was. Naruto blinked at her in confusion, taking her words in. As soon as her words registered to him, he slumped and muttered in a sad voice, so it was all for a nothing? Damn. Sakura's sweat dropped at how he easily gets depressed. It actually reminded her inner. Strange, isn't it? Nah, don't be so depressed. If you use camouflaged wire alone, then I'm sure Irika-sensei will definitely fall for your trap. You have to arrange the camouflaged wire some distance from the metal wire. She then narrowed her eyes at the trap arranged around the doorway, studying it with her keen green eyes. Say, about 3 inches from the metal wire? Are you sure that'll work? The blonde boy asked in a dubious tone. Definitely, Sakura said as she turned around and picked her bucket of water and scrub. Well, I've gotta go. See you around, Blondie, she said as she walked towards the door, but then realized that it's rigged with traps. So window it is then. She took a 180-degree turn and walked towards the window. Naruto watched the pink-haired girl's back as she walked away from him. Something was different about this girl. But what? What was different about this girl? And then suddenly the answer hit him. It's her eyes. Her emerald green eyes were warm and filled with so many emotions, it's unlike he has ever seen. She didn't look at him like everyone does, with cold hatred. Instead she looked at him with warmth, as, dare he say it, an equal. This girl is the first person to treat him like a normal person. TCH, the old man Hokage doesn't count. He's so old, and he rarely visits him. He was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard her slide open the window, and he soon realized that he didn't even know her name. Wait! He called out to her and she paused, her one leg over the windowsill, while her whole body was leaning against the window. What is your name? He asked to her frantically. How will I find you again if I don't even know your name? The pink-haired girl tilted her head towards him and gave him a warm smile, and Naruto was sure his heart would jump out of the ribs, by the way it was thudding against it, and then the girl said. My name is Sakura. Sakura Haruno. I am Naruto Uzumaki, believe it! He gave her a foxy grin as he introduced himself. She waved at him and said Ja-ni Naruto, and then stepped out from the window. She slid close the window's glass, but not before saying, Take care, Namikaze. Saying this, she walked away. Naruto waved his hand back like crazy, and watched her till she disappeared from his view. Only after she vanished from his sight did he remember her last words to him. Wait, what did she just call me? He asked out loud to no one in particular. Sakura once considered herself to be average in taijutsu. But after being injured brutally after a spar with Ino Pig no less, all her hopes have shattered. Is that all you can do, forehead? Ino sneered at her as she gave her a smug look, while Sakura could do nothing but just grunt. Oh Kami, it hurts so much. By the time she reaches home, she knew she's going to have bruises all over her body. Winner of this spar, Ino Yamanaka. Irika-sensei called out, while Ino cheered for her victory. Sakura gritted her teeth in anger as she somehow sat up and dragged herself away from the crowd, knowing how the eyes of a certain blonde boy was following her every move. However, she didn't have a time to think about boys when her mind was on how Ino Pig has beaten her so easily in a spar. Sasuke! Did you see that? Ino squealed in her high-pitched voice and turned towards Sasuke, who just ignored everything and everyone around him. She didn't know she was this weak that even Ino Pig could beat her like that. If this keeps going on, then she would not be able to beat Ino Pig and show Sasuke that she's not that weak little girl anymore. Or what she'd do to get a chance to beat Ino Pig and show that good-for-nothing Sasuke that she is much more powerful than he thinks she is. It was pathetic really, how she got beaten so easily. If only she was more powerful. Time to train like hell, outer. Her inner said to her, and she wholeheartedly agreed to him. Sayuri Haruno blinked her jade green eyes at her granddaughter. What did you just say? Sakura shuffled her legs uneasily and muttered a little loudly, would you mind training me in ninja arts, Grandma Sayuri? Sayuri Haruno had a maniacal grin in her eyes that made a shiver of terror run down her spine. I wonder if it was a good idea to ask her to train us. Ina wondered. It's not she had any choice, anyways. Her father, Kizashi Haruno, was a merchant, while her mother Mabuki may have been once a well-known jonin, but now she has retired and she had a good reason too, apparently. During childbirth there were some complications and that had been an end for Mabuki's ninja career. So the only option left for Sakura was to ask Granny Sayuri. Sayuri stood up and ruffled her granddaughter's hair, and said, I thought you'd never ask, my dear. and then started cackling madly. Why do I have a feeling it's going to be hell for me? Sakura thought, but Inner did not reply. He was busy cowering in a corner of her mind, in a place where Grandma Sayuri's cackles won't reach him. Run 10 laps around Konoha. Are you kidding me? You do know that Konoha is pretty big, right, Grandma? I won't be able to complete even one. Glares, you want to become strong, right, Sakura? Then do as I say. Slave driver. That you're right about, Inner. You said something? No, ma'am. Shakes head vigorously. So what are you waiting for then? Start running already. Yes, Grandma. Salutes and starts running. Sakura falls headfirst on the ground. Sweat drops. I know they're a little bit heavy, but it shouldn't have made you stumble like that. A little bit heavy? Are you kidding me? These weights feel like 1,000 times the weight I'd feel when you are sitting over my back. Narrows eyes. Are you calling me fat, child? No. Glares fiercely. Run 50 laps around Konoha wearing these weights. Now. Cries anime style. Okami, why me? Again. But I'm tired. I can't do it anymore. You've only done 44 push-ups until now. 56 are still remaining. And after that you have to do 200 sit-ups, and then 20 laps around Konoha and then. What kind of training is this anyways? To make me experience hell or something? It's to increase your stamina. Goodness, child, your stamina is even worse than a 3-year-old. That's all because of that dieting stuff you were so obsessed with, Outer. Shut up, Inner. Why did you stop? I didn't tell you to stop, did I? Continue the push-ups, or I swear you won't get any dinner tonight. What? No fair, Granny. You're doing it wrong, Sakura. Your stance is horribly wrong. Do it again. What's the difference, anyways? It looks pretty well to me. No, if you keep your hands like that, you'll miss your target by an inch. You should move your hands like this. Demonstrates to her. Mimics in a high-pitched voice. You should move your hands like this. Glares angrily. You want to say something? No. Boom. Deadpants. You're worse in sealing arts than I expected you to be. Dryly. Thanks, Granny. God damn it, girl. It has been a week already. Can't you just make a simple seal without it exploding into your face? I'm trying, alright. Then try harder. Your chakra control is pretty good, Sakura. You aced through the chakra control exercises. Why do I have a feeling that a but is coming? But it may need to be perfected. Ah, there it is. Told ya, Outer. Take these. Blinks in confusion. Bucket of water? What'll I do with it? Smirks. Put this bucket of water on head and run a lap around the training ground, and don't let even a single drop fall down by calming the ripples in the water with your chakra. Okay, Granny Sayuri. Few minutes later. Slam. Damn it. Using me as a target practice wasn't supposed to be the part of the plan, Granny. Says in a sing-song voice. Oops, might be I forgot to tell you, my dear little Sakura. I hate you, Granny. Didn't you feel or hear anything? No paranoia? No rustling of leaves? No feeling of being watched? No. Why? Should I've felt those things? Hums contemplatively. Well, at least you're good at breaking through a genjutsu. You mean that flickering of foreign chakra around me was genjutsu? Blinks. So you noticed it? Kinda? What kind of answer is that? Should I tell her it has been you who broke through that genjutsu, Inner? Nah. Whether you do it or I do, it's the same thing, Outer. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for breaking the genjutsu for me, Inner. No problem, oi, watch out. Slam. Don't get distracted. Did you forget we were in the middle of dodging practice? You were the one who was using genjutsu in the middle of weapon training, Granny. This is to increase your awareness, Sakura. A good ninja is always aware of his surroundings. Wow, Granny! What is this green glow in your hands? Like it, Sakura? This is called Mystic Palm as one of the medical ninjutsus. Oh right, I forgot. You're a medic ninja, aren't you, Granny? Yup, and one of the best. Did you know that I was the one who taught medical ninjutsus to Tsunade of the Sannin, along with the third Hokage's late wife Biwako? Mutters yeah, and pigs can fly. Why you brat? Slam. Oh. That hurts. What was that for? For opening your damn mouth. Now pay attention. I'm going to teach you medical ninjutsu. Really? Cheers, yay. Awesome. Sakura panted as she reached the clearing where she usually comes to train, or maybe hide from Grandma Sayuri when she is on a rampage. The clearing was in the forest behind the ninja academy, and was near the Uchiha compound, but far enough that no prying Uchiha would come to disturb her. She had found it accidentally one day while running laps around Konoha, and since then this had become her sort of personal training ground. She practiced her katas as her mind wandered for a while. Her taijutsu is getting better day by day, all thanks to Granny Sayuri. Her stamina and chakra levels are also increasing, and so is her reaction time. Well, she still has troubles with weapons, and apparently her chakra levels aren't that much up to level, hence ninjutsu was out of question for now, at least. Though she'd still pester Granny to teach her at least one ninjutsu. Even though Sakura can't cast a genjutsu for the life of her, she can break them off pretty quick, all thanks to Inner. Since her chakra control is the best, Granny Sayuri has started to teach her some medical ninjutsus, being a medical ninja and all, and Sakura is proud to say that she is quite good in it. Though she isn't sure if she can do it at the time of need, since that one time Granny Sayuri took her to hospital to test her medical ninjutsu credibility on some patients, only for Sakura to faint at the sight of blood. Granny just had to choose a patient who was bleeding so heavily. Damn that old hag. Ha 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 ha. But you have to admit though, it had been funny to watch you faint over sight of blood. Some medical ninja you are. Shut up, Inner. She blocked Inner's voice as he laughed at her misfortune and finished her katas. After that she started training weaponry as she pulled out some kunai and shuriken from her pouch and threw them at her targets. 6 out of 10 hit the target. Well, nobody's perfect. She just have to practice her aim and perfect it before Granny Sayuri takes one of those surprise tests of hers, or Sakura won't live to see another day. Inner rambled on and on about one thing or other as she did her target practice. Suddenly, Inner went deathly quiet and then muttered to her. We're being watched. Where? At 10 o'clock. She threw a shuriken at the designated point in some bushes, and a yell and some shuffling was heard. Who's there? Come out, now! There was some rustling of leaves and a black-haired teenager stumbled out of the bushes. He had short black hair, onyx eyes and pale skin, much like Sasuke. An Uchiha, then? He was wearing the Konoha headband over his head. She eyed his jonin uniform and the small cut on his shoulder sleeves which must have been made by her shuriken. Your aim has gotten pretty good, Outer. Inner complimented her. I was aiming for his head. She answered, annoyed. In that case, I must say your aim is horrible. Thanks, Inner. She deadpanned. You're welcome, Outer. He answered her back cheerfully. Now answer the moron back. He's been waving his hand before your eyes like an idiot. She snapped out of her trance, realizing that indeed, the Uchiha was waving his hand before her eyes. What? She snapped at him. The Uchiha jumped, startled at her. I asked you something, but you just seemed to zone out. Well, now I'm back to earth. She deadpanned. So, mind telling me why were you spying on me, Uchiha? I was just heading back to the Uchiha compound when I heard some noises from around this part of the forest, and decided to check it out. Liar. She narrowed her eyes and accused him bluntly. This clearing is way far than the main road that lead to Uchiha compound, so there is no way you could have heard me training, unless you were somewhat near to this clearing. So, mind telling me why you were spying on me? The Uchiha stared at her for a while, that made her shuffle nervously, and then burst out laughing. Oh, you're good, Chibi-chan. She yelled in irritation. Who are you calling a chibi? He gave her an amused look and then ruffled her pink hair and cooed, ah, you look so cute when you're angry, Chibi-chan. Stop calling me that, she yelled, annoyed at him. He just laughed at her antics. She slapped his hand away and turned away from him and said, if you're just going to annoy me, then get out of here, Uchiha. Can't you see that I'm training here? She then pulled out some kunai from her pack and threw them at various targets set around the clearing. 4 out of the 6 kunais hit the target. That's better than the last time. He eyes her throws and said, you're good, though not that good. You still can't shoot at your blind spots. And if you handle your kunais like that, you're bound to miss the 2 of the 6 targets. Why don't you do it then? She asked, annoyed. With pleasure, he said as he pulled out 6 shuriken and threw them at the targets. Every single one of them hit the center. Sakura clicked her mouth shut and glared at him. Why can he do it while she can't? That's so not fair. The Uchiha watched her in amusement as she just glared at him. She is so cute. Just like his little cousin Sasuke, maybe much cuter. With her pink hair and green eyes, she looked like a little porcelain exotic doll. So cute. Well, I can teach you weaponry, if you tell me one thing. What? She asked as she narrowed her eyes at him and looked at him in suspicion. Tell me who taught you those katas? He asked in a serious tone. That threw her off guard. Of all the things she had expected, this was not it. What? He's weird. He somewhat reminds me of you, you know. Hey, I'm not like this idiot. I beg to differ. I'm saying, the Uchiha's voice broke her out of her trance. Tell me who taught you those katas. She scratched the back of her head. What's the big deal about this? It were just some katas, nothing much. My grandma taught it to me. Why? What's so big deal about it? She finally admitted. What harm would it cause, anyways? It's not like they have a copyright on it, anyways. Turns out, they do have a copyright on it. Damn. Chibi-chan, the katas you just perform are the Uchiha katas. They're drilled into our clan's kids, and are very different from the academy katas. Sure you've noticed it up to now, right? The Uchiha answered her seriously. Sure she did, but she didn't think much over it. Maybe she should have questioned Granny Sayuri when she was drilling these katas into her head. Eh? She exclaimed. I didn't know that. I swear. I can see that, he said exasperatedly. But this changes nothing. Like Gentle Fist style is solely taught to Hyugas and no one else outside their clan. Similarly, only Uchiha clan kids are allowed to study these katas. It's an offense to copy a clan's techniques, and even teaching them to others, and it's punishable by death. Sakura's eyes bugged out of her socket. What? Any non-Uchiha person would be punished for copying the family fighting style, unless he tapped his chin and pondered over something. After a while he looked over at Sakura and asked, What's your grandma's name? Huh. She blinked at him in confusion. Hard of hearing? She scowled at him and answered, It's Sayuri. Sayuri Harino. Realization dawned on him, and he said, Of course it is. He exclaimed. Of all the people, it just had to be the bastard daughter of great-great-great-grandpa. Sakura, being the cute 7-year-old she is, tilted her head innocently and asked the what? What's a bastard? All the color drained out of his face, and the Uchiha chuckled nervously as he scratched the back of his head. Don't tell anyone that I said it in front of you, alright? Sakura sighed dramatically and said, Oh, I dunno, I feel like eating 3 sticks of dango today. His eyes twitched, and he muttered under his breath, Brat. What did you say? She narrowed her eyes at him. He held his hands in a dismissive way and said, Nothing, I'll buy you 3 dango sticks. Happy now? Yay! She cheered, and he sighed in relief. So, she asked the Uchiha boy, What is this about Granny Sayuri being the ba whatever of whatever? And what does this ba whatever mean anyways? It means illegitimate. Didn't you know that your granny is an illegitimate Uchiha child? The Uchiha boy told her. She is? She asked. The Uchiha nodded. Yeah, in fact she was half-sister of my grandpa Kagami Uchiha. However, since she was an illegitimate Uchiha child, the Uchiha clan head at that time kicked her out of her clan. That's horrible! Sakura cried out in horror. Uchihas are so mean! Hey! The boy yelled, offended, for your kind info, I'm an Uchiha too. You're the most un-Uchiha Uchiha I've ever seen. She pointed at him. And what's that supposed to mean? He asked as he narrowed his eyes at her. What do you think? He rolled his eyes and said, So anyways, as I was saying, your grandmother is an half Uchiha. And since your father couldn't unlock the Sharingan, the Uchiha elders just thought that the Uchiha genes have been repressed in her, and hence won't show up in near future. That makes you a part Uchiha too. Sakura tapped her chin and said, Hey, didn't you say that my granny Sayuri was the half-sister of your grandpa? Doesn't that makes you my brother of sorts? He blinked at her, and then snapped his fingers. You're right. Why didn't I think of that? That means you're my sister. That's so cool. He cheered and then hugged Sakura out of blue, choking her in his strong hold. Take that, Itachi. My sister is much cuter than your brother. Sakura's face started turning blue in the Uchiha boy's hold as she muttered, See can't be breath. Oh sorry. He apologized and released her from his hug, and she took in deep breaths and glared at him, while he just gave her a sheepish grin. She huffed and said, "What's your name, anyways?" "Oh right, we didn't introduce ourselves." He laughed sheepishly, making her sweat drop. He then held out his hand and said, "I am Shursui Uchiha. Nice to meet you, Chibi-chan. For your kind info, my name is Sakura Haruno, not Chibi-chan." She deadpanned as she shook his head. He threw his head back and laughed out loud. She scooted away from him and muttered, "He's so weird. Look who's talking. The pot's calling the kettle black." "What do you mean?" "I am not weird," says the girl who hears a voice in her head. "I hate you." "Love you too, dear Sakura." A screech of a hawk started them. They both looked up and saw a hawk flying over their heads. A sad smile appeared on Shursui's lips as he turned to Sakura and said, "Looks like the Hokage has summoned me for some mission. I have to go." Here was a sad look in his eyes that troubled her. It was like he didn't want to go. As if he'll go, he'll have to do something terrible. "Do you really have to go?" she asked in a small voice as she held his hand in hers. Shursui may be annoying, but he was really something. He was like an elder brother she always wanted, but never had. And what younger sibling would want to be separated from their older sibling? "I have to," he said as his eyes softened when he looked at her. Damn, if she keeps looking at him with those wide emerald eyes, he doesn't think he'd be able to report to the Hokage in time. He knelt down in front of her and said, "As a ninja, it is my duty to do everything I can to protect the village. But it doesn't mean you have to like what you do," she pointed out to him, noticing the darkness lurking deep beneath his sunny facade. "No, it doesn't," he admitted to her, taken aback by how much she can see through him. "Impressive. Can't you refuse then? If you don't like to do something, then don't do it," she asked desperately. She didn't know why, but she didn't want to part with him. It was like a déjà vu, something bad will happen in future, and she knew it. But what? That she couldn't tell. It's not as easy as it seems. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't like, but they're still important for keeping everyone safe. Sometimes we have to think about others before ourselves. Shursui answered her. "So there's no way to change things? No way to not make people do things that they don't want to?" she asked as Shursui stood up. "Well, there is." He smiled at her and said, "We're underlings. We have to follow orders that are given to us. But if you manage to get on a high position, like say that of a Hokage, then you may be able to change a lot of things that you don't like." He then ruffled her soft, pink hair and said, "Gotta go, Chibi-chan. See you around." Saying this, he disappeared, but not like Sakura noticed it anyways. She was too deep in her thoughts to notice anything. She looked up at the sky, with a serene look on her face as thoughts whirled around her mind. "A Hokage, huh?" A warm smile blossomed on her lips and said, "All right, brother Shursui, I promise I'll become Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. Then you, or anyone else, won't have to do things they don't want." Something snapped inside her, and her emerald green eyes turned hard as determination shone through them. "I'll be Hokage, no matter what. And that's the promise of a lifetime. Just keep watching over me, brother Shursui. And you won't believe how cute she is, Itachi. She looks like an exotic porcelain doll with her pink hair and all." Shursui. And her green eyes shine so passionately like burning emeralds. "I'm telling you, Itachi, my cute little sister is the embodiment of the will of fire." Shursui. "And did I tell you how pretty she is? She is even cuter than Sasuke. And..." Shursui. "What?" "Shut up or I'll strangle you to death." Grinned sheepishly. "Oops, hee hee hee." Mutters, "Besides, no one can be cuter than my little brother Sasuke." "What did you say? Hard of hearing? You want to fight? Oh, you're so on, Itachi Uchiha." Slam. "Ow. Ow. 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 OWWW. Sakura wailed, clutching her right hand as she sat in the middle of a training ground, in the center of a huge crater. Her hand throbbed painfully, and she whimpered at the pain. "Sakura!" Her grandma cried out frantically as she appeared next to her, and placed a green glowing palm over her right hand as she muttered angrily, "Goddammit girl, can't you do a single thing right? I told you not to push too much chakra through your hand. Now see what you've done. You fractured your hand." Sakura sniffled and sobbed, "But how was I supposed to know how much chakra to use? If I use less amount, nothing happens, if I use even slightly more than needed, it works, but also harms me as well. How do I know the right amount of chakra to use? She then wailed loudly, if I keep messing it up, how can I become like Lady Tsunade? And Rin. Konoha was not built in a day, Sakura. Sayuri sighed in exasperation as she gazed at her granddaughter fondly. It'll take time to perfect this technique. It had taken years even to Tsunade to use the right amount of chakra to enhance her destructive taijutsu style. But I don't have years. I have to get strong as soon as I can and become Hokage, Sakura said with a fierce look in her eyes. Sayuri was taken aback by the determination shining through her granddaughter's eyes. Her words were so similar to that other boy's words, whom she had always thought of like a grandson. I promise, Granny, I will get stronger soon enough, and then no one can stop me from becoming Hokage. She smiled softly at her and flicked her nose and said, well, you still have time for that. I don't think Hiruzen would give up his position soon enough, especially not when even a decade haven't passed since the Nine Tails attack and the Fourth's death, but I'm sure you will snatch away his position from him someday. Sakura beamed at her grandma, ignoring the throbbing pain in her hand for once. But for that, you'll have to master this destructive taijutsu style of Tsunade's and get strong, she said in amusement. Sakura groaned, making Sayuri laugh at the young girl's misery. She finished healing her and patted her back and said, chill out, Sakura. It'll take quite some time to master that technique. After all, not everyone can have the Hyuga's special eyes that can tell how much chakra can be needed for a certain technique. Sakura froze up at her comment as an idea appeared in her mind. Why didn't she thought of it before? She can just go to a Hyuga and ask for their help. But why would they help her? If she remembered correctly, then didn't Granny Sayuri once said that Uchihas and Hyugas have a stick stuck up in their asses, whatever that means? So, it's highly unlikely that they're going to help. But then again, look at Shursui, her brother/cousin whatever. He is the most un-Uchiha-like Uchiha she had ever seen in her life. Otherwise, every other Uchiha she knew were stuck-ups. Even Sasuke was a jerk, and he was what, 8? So there must be at least one Hyuga who isn't stuck up like most of her clan. Right. But where will she find him her? It's not like she knew many Hyugas, not even one. Hey, that reminds me, Outer, didn't there a Hyuga girl in our class? What was her name again? Hina something, right? Who? Don't you remember her? That shy girl who always stutters while speaking and is always stalking that blonde guy. What was his name again? Ah, I remember it now. Naruto. Oh, you mean Hinata, that girl with dark blue hair and pale eyes? Yeah, that girl. Why don't we just ask for her help? What if she turns out to be stuck up like the rest of her clan, inner? I highly doubt it. Sayuri, oblivious to her granddaughter's mental conversations, wrapped bandages around her granddaughter's arm and said, I may have healed your broken bones, but your arm is still gonna be sore for some while, okay? She frowned when her granddaughter didn't answer, and just stood there with a glazed look in her eyes. A twitch appeared over her eyebrow and she bonked Sakura's head. Oh. What was that for, you old hag? Pay attention, you brat. Hinata? Squeaks SS Sakura? Hello? Hi. I was wondering if you'd help me in a little project of mine? And me? Yes, I need your help. You see, I am working on a technique which enhances the destructive power of a punch or a kick when a certain amount of chakra is applied. But I either end up using too much chakra or too little chakra. I can't decide the fixed amount of chakra to use. Will you please help me out with your special eyes? Turns red and stutters I. Thinks she's going to lash out, and apologizes profusely. Of course you don't have to if you don't want to. It's just I really need to learn this technique. I want to be stronger, so that one day I can be Hokage. I'd be glad if you help me out, and in return I am even willing to help you out in your own techniques. But if you don't want to, then don't. I wouldn't want to force you or anything. No! Shouts out suddenly and shakes head furiously. It's not like that. It's not. No, I just bit her lower lip and sighs. I'd love to help you. Beams, thank you so much, Hinata. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship between Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the Hyuga clan, and our one and only Sakura Haruno. Shursui, why are we here? Itachi asked as he dodged Shursui's kick and spun out of the way, his Sharingan blazing red. Shursui chuckled and said, why, you ask? For training, of course. He then did some hand signs and spat out a big fireball at him, which he blocked with an earth wall. I don't believe you at all. Itachi deadpanned as he jumped when Shursui's body flickered behind him. Shursui's loud laughter echoed around their personal training area, which was a cliff just above the Naka River. This was the place where Shursui usually trained, and sometimes Itachi tagged along with him. However, he had a feeling that today Shursui didn't bring him here just for training. Besides, they had better things to do, like plan about how to thwart the Uchiha clan's plans of coup d'etat. But here they were, having a friendly spar, when they should have been with the council, discussing their next step. Shursui jumped up next to Itachi, and was about to use another fire jutsu when a shrill voice startled them. "Brother Shursui!" Both the A and BU ninjas turned and saw a pink-haired girl running towards them with a big smile on her face. She looked around Sasuke's age. With her bright emerald eyes and fair skin, she really looked like a porcelain doll. Itachi had to admit, she was cute. Shursui's meaningless rants had been all true after all, even though it had annoyed the hell out of him. The pink-haired barreled into Shursui, making him stumble back. Shursui laughed as he hugged her back. His eyes sparkled with happiness, and Itachi had to admit that he'd never seen Shursui this happy. A soft smile appeared on his lips as he watched them both. "Brother Shursui, you're back from your mission." The pink-haired girl squealed as she looked up in her brother-slash-cousin's eyes. She had missed him. He had been gone on a long-term mission for 3 months, and he had returned only now. He was even wearing his ANBU uniform, which was dirty, meaning he had just returned from his mission. "I miss you," she said as she hugged him again. "Ah, I missed you too, Chibi-chan," Shursui said as he ruffled her soft, pink hair. "Stop calling me that," Sakura said with a scowl, which made Shursui laugh even loudly. She then smiled at him and asked, Brother, you promised to show me an awesome jutsu." "I did," Shursui asked sheepishly as he scratched the back of his head. "Shursui," she growled in anger, making him hold up his hands dismissively, though the amusement in his eyes was still clear. All right, but first I'd like you to meet someone," Shursui said with a smile. "Who?" Sakura asked as she tilted her head cutely, and Shursui almost squealed at her cuteness. Keyword almost. Shursui gestured towards the other boy standing in the clearing and said, "Chibi-chan, meet my best friend, Itachi Uchiha." Then he turned to Itachi and gestured to Sakura and said, "Itachi, this is my cute little sister, Sakura." Sakura turned towards the other boy and narrowed her eyes. Itachi was 13 years old, and had long black hair tied in a loose ponytail. He was a handsome boy with a stern face, but his eyes did not show any emotion. Sakura couldn't help but wonder why this boy looked so much like Sasuke. She shook her head and shrugged it off. Almost all Uchihas look the same, what with black hair, pale skin and all. No wonder this guy looks like Sasuke. "Hi," Sakura said shyly as she peeked at Itachi from beneath her eyelashes. Itachi bit his lip to stop himself from squealing like a fangirl. Shursui was damn right, this girl is so cute. "Hello?" Itachi said in his cold voice, even though he was anything but cold. He then turned to Shursui and said, "You were right. She is cute." Shursui fist pumped in air and said, "See? Told you so." Sakura's sweat dropped at his antics. "What a weirdo. Like you're the one to talk." "But not as much cute as my brother," Itachi said, and Shursui glared at him. "Is too. Is not. Is too. Is not. Is too. Is not. Will you two just stop?" Sakura screeched at them, making them stop. She huffed, and then turned to Shursui and asked, "You were going to show me an awesome jutsu, right?" Her eyes sparkled with wonder and curiosity. "Yes," Shursui said with a smirk. "I'm going to show you my best jutsu, the body flicker." "Itachi, where are we going?" Sasuke whined as his elder brother Itachi guided them somewhere. After 10 minutes or so, they ended up in the public park. "Eh? Why are we here, big brother? I thought you were going to help me with my shuriken training?" "Patience, little brother," Itachi said in a cool voice as he leaned against a tree. "But Itachi..." "Itachi..." A voice cut Sasuke off. He pouted and turned, only to look in horror as his cousin Shursui walked towards them with a certain pink-haired banshee. These two happened to be the two of his least favorite people. "What are you doing here?" Sasuke scowled as he looked at the pair approaching them, while looking mostly at the pink-haired banshee. The pink-haired girl, much to his surprise, scowled at him and said, "I should ask you the same thing." Sasuke sniffed haughtily as he crossed his arms and said, "I'm here to meet my cousin's younger sibling." Sakura scoffed and said, "Same. I'm here to meet my brother's friend's little brother." Shursui and Itachi shared an amused look. Itachi then looked down at Sasuke and said, Sasuke, this is Sakura, Shursui's sister. At the same time, Shursui pointed his thumb towards Sasuke and said, Sakura, this is Itachi's little brother, Sasuke. Cue a 2-minute silence. And then both of them yelled in unison. You are Shursui's sister? You are Itachi's brother? Ina rolled in laughter inside her mind and gasped out, Gah, this is freaking hilarious. Who knew grumpy Sasuke was Itachi's brother? You really have one heck of luck, outer. Shut up, Ina. She is so loud and annoying and have a pink hair of all colors. I can't believe you are Shursui's sister. Sasuke then paused and said, wait, I can. She is as weird as Shursui. No doubt she is his sister. Sakura bristled at his insults. All these years he had ignored her, and now when he was talking to her for the first time, all he has to say are insults. What an egoistic jerk. Put him down some notches, outer. I'm dying to see his ego pegged down. Sakura narrowed her eyes at him and said with a scoff, as if you're the one to talk. Itachi is so cool and polite, but you're the opposite of him, egoistic, self-centered and hot-tempered. Yeah. You tell him, outer. What did you say? Sasuke asked with an angry growl. I said you are egoistic, self-centered and hot-headed, Sakura said in a furious tone. Shursui looked at the two of them bantering and said with a sigh, I'll look at the two of them. They're getting along just fine, aren't they? Shursui, were you hit in your head or something during our last mission? Itachi deadpanned as the two children argued hotly. How is this getting along just fine? Shursui has truly a loose screw in his head. Naruto! Come back here! Iruka yelled as he chased after Naruto around the academy, who grinned as he ran away from him. Iruka scowled as he ran after him. His Chunin vest was splattered with orange paint was quite visible to everyone, as he ran after the naughty child. You can guess why Iruka was furious with our favorite blonde knucklehead. Naruto grinned as he turned a corner, only to bump into a wall. He stumbled as he fell on his butt. Hey! What's the big idea? The wall cried out. Wait, what? He looked up at the wall, which happened to be not wall. It was Sakura, that weird pink-haired girl whom he met months ago during detention, and who treated him like a friend. And she was pretty, with her pink hair and glimmering green eyes and a hem. Oh yeah, and she was in his class, and was very smart and polite, even though she comes late for every class. He had also spent some detentions with her, and each time they'd end up planning pranks together. There were many pranks that they pulled together, in which she was the mastermind who planned everything, and he was the one who executed those plans. They were friends now, sort of, and he was glad for it. These days, she brings another girl with blue hair and pale eyes along with her in lunchtime, who would always turn red and stutter around him. Thinking she has a fever or something, a few times he had placed his hand on her forehead to check if she had a fever, but then she'd faint, making Sakura laugh. He loved to hear Sakura laugh, but why does it have to be when the blue-haired girl, Hinata, faints? And why does she faint anyways? If she is sick or something, why does she even comes to academy? Honestly, Hinata is such a weirdo. Sakura rubbed her butt as she stood up and scowled at the boy who bumped into her, whom she later realized as Naruto. Oh hey, it's you, Naruto, she said as she extended her hand to Naruto to help him up. Sakura. Naruto beamed as he took her hand and stood up with her help. What are you doing? Running away, Sakura muttered under her breath. Naruto gave her a puzzled look. From whom? At the very moment, two screams rang out around the academy. Sakura! Naruto! Damn! Both of them said in unison, and ran past each other. See you in the evening at the park, Sakura yelled out to Naruto as she kept running. Yeah! Naruto agreed as he ran, though he was curious. Who was after Sakura? What did she do now? He got his answer when he saw a pink-haired Sasuke running past him. He burst out in laughter. Sakura sure knows how to get her revenge. So, I heard you've been training your granddaughter for some time, is that right, Sayuri? Hiruzen Sarutobi asked as he took a sip from his tea, enjoying its sweet taste. Sayuri Haruno, who also happens to be our dearest Sakura's grandmother, narrowed her eyes and said in a mocking tone, don't tell me you sent Anbu to once again spy on me. Have you, Hiruzen? No. Not at all, especially after that one time you set their masks on fire for spying on you while you were gardening. He laughed at his friend's question, enjoying their playful banter. It has been so long since the two of them have sat together and just talked carefree. Hiruzen truly missed spending time with her. If only she hadn't left the council. She pouted and said with a huff, "You're such a meanie, Hiruzen." He rolled his eyes and said sarcastically, "Yeah, and you're a saint, aren't you?" "Damn straight I am," she said with a mock-haughty look, which made Hiruzen burst out on laughter, which made Sayuri's lips twitch upwards in a smile. "So, what made you ask me about my cute little Sakura?" she asked with raised brows. "Well, she must have something special if you yourself are training her," Hiruzen said with a knowing look as he placed down his cup. "Special? Oh, so you mean the Sharingan?" Sayuri laughed at his comment. "No, I don't think she'll acquire the Sharingan. The Uchiha blood in her has been diluted a lot. I never awoken my Sharingan, and nor did Kizashi. Even the idea of Sakura acquiring the Sharingan is laughable." "Oh, I see," he said, looking a little disappointed. Sayuri smiled at him, even though all she wanted was to strangle him. She swore Hiruzen is getting influenced by Danzo, much like her former friends Koharu and Hamura. Otherwise, why would he even bother with her, after all this time? He hadn't come to visit her after she had resigned from the council after 4th Hokage's death. Why would he come here now, if not for looking for a scapegoat to sacrifice for the good of the village? Of course, she knew that she can't keep protecting her granddaughter from everything. One day, her precious Sakura would be a ninja and go on to life-threatening missions. But she didn't want it to be so soon. If Sakura had awakened her Sharingan, she'd be considered a prodigy, and would be graduated immediately, and her former teammate Danzo would watch her granddaughter like a hawk, which she really didn't want to happen. All this would have given her a headache. And let's not forget about the fact that the Uchiha clan elders would have thrown a hissy fit, and would have fought the legal claims to adopt Sakura in the Uchiha clan. After all, those bastards are always eager to have prodigies. The more prodigies they have, the more they can influence the village. Poor Itachi and Sure Sway, she wished she could have done something for both of them, since they're much like her grandchildren. She really was so glad that Sakura hadn't awakened her Sharingan. And then, there was the matter of the rising chances of a civil war breaking out in Konoha. Sayuri wasn't stupid. She had noticed the tension between the Uchiha clan and the civilians. Many a times, she herself had witnessed how people are harassing the Uchihas, holding them responsible for the Nine Tails attack about 8 years ago. The growing resentment among the Uchihos was quite obvious and expected. After all, she herself had been through shame and resentment when she had been kicked out of Uchiha clan for being a bastard child, as well as for supposedly not having Sharingan. Just because she never used her Sharingan for combat, or anything for that matter, doesn't mean she didn't have it. Hypocrites. It had been a difficult task to hide the fact that she had awakened her Sharingan. Only her, the first Hokage Hashirama Senju, her sensei Tobarama Senju, and her half-brother Kagami Uchiha had known this, and they had taken her secret to the grave. And she'd be damned if she let out her closely guarded secret. And wasn't it such a relief when her son Kizashi didn't awaken his Sharingan at all? Who knew that Haruno blood would be so potent as to suppress even a Kekkei Genkai? Well, at least this is an assurance that Sakura won't awaken the Sharingan, hence the chances of it awakening are very, very low. Thank Kami for small favors. Sayuri smiled at him, and took a sip of her tea. Sakura is an average girl. She has small chakra reserves, so ninjutsu is out of question. She can't cast a genjutsu for the life of her, even though strangely, she is quite good in determining a genjutsu and breaking out of it, though I can't say about Sharingan-induced genjutsus. She has mediocre skills in sealing arts. Her taijutsu is the quite good, as well as her chakra control. That's why I'm trying to instill Tsunade's fighting style into her, but the progress is going really slowly. Heck, just the other day that girl fractured her arm while punching the ground. And not to forget that she fails at the sight of blood. Some medical ninja she'll be, she said with a huff. Hiruzen chuckled and said, sounds like an interesting girl. However, I don't understand, why are you training her so hard? I mean, yeah, I know she's your granddaughter and that's why you want to teach her everything you know. But teaching her Tsunade's destructive taijutsu style? I don't understand. If I didn't know you better, I'd have thought that you're preparing her for war. He joked. Her jade eyes glimmered and she gave him a soft smile and said, Hiruzen, I have a feeling she'll surpass us all. She looked out of the window, at the 4 faces carved on the Hokage mountain, and said with warmth in her tone. In this world torn with war and hatred, she'll be a beacon of light. She'll be a Hokage the likes of which this village has never seen, I'm sure of it. She looked back at him, and gave him a stunning smile. She will be the one to bring peace. For a moment, he was silent. He did not know what to say to her. Why? He questioned in a soft tone. Why do you have so high hopes for her? Sayuri closed her eyes, remembering all those little things she had noticed about Sakura that were so similar to him. Those orange goggles, that selfless quality to help others, the habit of being late to everything, that determination with which she trains, The charming smile that even melts the hearts of a foe, that strange gleam in her eyes when she speaks of being a Hokage. Yes, she is so much like him. Because she reminds me of him. Whom? Hiruzen asked with a raised brow. She sighed and said Obito Uchiha. Sayuri Haruno rolls down a huge-ass scroll in front of Sakura. Granny, what is this scroll? It is a summoning contract. A what? A summoning contract. It is a contract between a summon animal and a human. There are certain conditions placed by the summon animal, and when a human agrees to those conditions, a contract is signed. The contractor uses their own blood to sign their name and place their fingerprints, and once signed it is valid even after the contractor's death, as long as the contract itself remains intact. After signing the contractor can do the summoning technique, which is a space-time ninjutsu. Blinks in confusion, alright, but why are you showing me a summoning contract? Grins sadistically, I want you to sign a partial contract with bears. What? Are you deaf or something? I told you to sign the contract. I don't like that sadistic gleam in her eyes. What's she planning? The Uchiha are assembling again tonight, Danzo said in a cold tone, sitting in front of Hiruzen Sarutobi, who practiced his calligraphy in his resting room next to the Hokage's office. I know about it as well, Hiruzen answered as he placed down his brush and looked up at his friend. But we cannot interfere with their clan rituals. Rituals indeed, Danzo said with a scoff. They're going to fan the flames of distrust against us, then use it to unite the clan. They're preparing for a coup d'état. And the one to nip it in the bud is, Hiruzen said calmly, and looked at the door as it opened. Sure Sway. Sure Sway Uchiha? Danzo asked, dumbfounded. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, explained Sure Sway will attend if Fugaku incites a rebellion. Sure Sway cut him off. I will use my Koto Amatsukami, Sure Sway said as he knelt down in front of the Hokage, his Sharingan eyes blazing red. Danzo muttered, your visual jutsu. He will have no clue that Sure Sway is controlling his actions. He will believe that his words are his own, the third Hokage said. I'm going to make Fugaku think about coexistence with the village, Sure Sway said. I don't think that controlling only Fugaku will put an end to the Uchiha's dissatisfaction, Danzo argued back. Hiruzen shook his head and said no. If the Uchiha will change, then we of the Leaf must change too. Let us improve our relations with the Uchiha. This is my hope, Sure Sway said. I will assign one A and B behind the scene, Hiruzen said, and then said with a stern look, I'm counting on you, Sure Sway. Yes, sir. I won't fail, for the sake of my little sister. If the coup happens, she will be in danger, along with my precious people and my village. I will not fail. Sakura, do you know about the Will of Fire? Will of Fire? What's that, brother Sure Sway? Smiles softly, the will to love, believe, cherish, and fight to protect the village, that is the Will of Fire. Oh. I want to protect it, Sakura. I want to protect the village and my precious people. And I will do anything to protect them. Smiles sadly, even if I have to sacrifice myself for it. Glances at him with the corner of her eyes, brother, you're scaring me. Ruffles her hair, no need to be scared, Sakura. I will not let anything harm you, I promise. Grabs his hand hysterically, I don't want your protection. I want you to always stay by my side. I want you to be there when I become Hokage of this village. Smiles softly, of course. I will always be there with you. Taps the left side of her chest where heart is in here. Sure Sway. Why does it feel like goodbye? Because it was a goodbye, but she never realized it. Sakura beamed as she looked down at the babe bear she had summoned. Her grandma was a sadistic woman. She made her make a partial contract with her summoned animals, the bears, guilt-tripping her by saying that she wanted to pass on her contract to her so as when her time comes, she'll die peacefully, knowing that at least her poor bears won't feel neglected. Turns out, it had all been a big fat lie. It was all a well-planned scheme to make her fall into their trap. The reason for her insistence of Sakura signing the contract was that the bears were bored with nothing to do, hence wanted to have some fun with someone other than Sayuri. And Kami are these bears annoying, as well as intimidating as hell. They appear out of nowhere at very inappropriate moments, like when she is in shower, or while she is changing, or when she is playing hide and seek with her friends or training to hide from Granny Sayuri by suppressing chakra. And seriously, what the hell? Also, it's no big deal when they appear out of nowhere and scare the shit out of her, but if she summoned any elderly bear, not that she had that much chakra reserves, but accidents happen every once in a while to the best of us. They'd yell at her for interrupting their nap. Goddamn lazy bears. Why are you even Granny's summons? Go to Nara's or something. Inner grumbled, or their free time or something. She feels like this contract was nothing but a joke against her. Also, since it is a partial contract, she had to pay much more than what she deserves. Turns out, she not only has to keep up with their popping up at most embarrassing moments, but she also has to train 3 bear cubs every year. Ugh, why her? And the only benefit she was getting from this partial contract? She can summon 1 bear for any of her ninja battles, but only once a month. Also, this contract can be broken anytime the bears want. Seriously? Like, what the hell? Why did we even sign this contract? Because Granny Sayuri just loves to torture us. Just great. Anyways, the good thing was, she gets to spend time with cute baby bears. And the bears' cubs were so cute. The baby bear she had held in her hands was a tiny little thing that was the size of her arm, which in itself was small since she herself was an 8-year-old. The baby bear has soft, white fur and his eyes were dark blue, like that of a gleaming sapphire. He has leafy, blue patterns tattooed over his body, or were they birthmarks? Who cares? Point is, she gets to train this bear, along with 2 others for a whole year. She'd have to teach him how to talk, how to fight everything. And wasn't it so darn cute? She wanted Shursui to see her new summons, so she took off towards the training area where Shursui usually wanders around. She giggled as she imagined his shocked expression when she performed the summoning jutsu. She just prayed that she doesn't accidentally summon any elder bear. Cammy knows what a disaster it'll be. It was getting quite darker as she entered the forest. Gathering her courage, she sneaked quietly into the forest. She suppressed her chakra, deciding to surprise Shursui. How many times had he startled her with his damn body flicker? She'd pay him back this time with this. At least hiding from Granny Sayuri's rampages benefited her somewhat. She got to learn how to suppress her chakra to hide her presence. And a damn good thing it was, right? She applied chakra to her feet to suppress the sounds of her footsteps as she neared the cliff above the Naka River where Shursui usually trains. However, she was surprised to see Itachi also there. She stood at the very edge of the cliff, from where she can hear perfectly clearly as their voices would echo when they talk since they were standing on the edge of the cliff, while her voice won't reach them, thanks to the surrounding trees. I'll just wait till Itachi leaves. Why not show him as well how awesome we are? Hariner said as he fist pumped. No, I want to show my summoning jutsu to Brother Shursui only. I can show Itachi some other time. As you wish, Outer. She hid behind a big tree, masking her chakra as well as casting an E-rank jutsu which Iruka-sensei had taught some months ago about how to camouflage something with surroundings. However, casting it over her whole body would take more chakra than casting it over any other thing. Camouflage jutsu. She whispered in a very low tone as she made hand signs to hide from the Sharingan of the 2 Uchiha geniuses, and applied a bit of chakra over her body, merging with the surroundings. Not like it'll do any good. The Sharingan can see through every jutsu. If they look this way, we're so dead. You seem to know quite a lot about Sharingan, Inner. She furrowed her brow when he didn't answer back. In fact, there was a deadly silence in her mind. What happened? I was going to try to stop the coup d'état with Koto Amatsukami, but Lord Danzo took my right eye. Shursui said in a somber voice, his back towards her and Itachi as he stood on the very edge of the cliff, with Itachi standing some meters away from him behind him. He turned around, and her breath caught in her throat as she saw that his right eye was closed, with blood leaking from it. She was horrified by the state Shursui was in. Who was Danzo? Why did he do this to her brother? And what was all this about a coup d'état? What's going on? The hell if I know, Inner screeched in anger. He doesn't trust me, Shursui admitted. He intends to protect the village in his own way, no matter what it takes or how it looks. He glanced down sadly and muttered, I suspect he'll come out after my left eye as well. So I want to give it to you before he has a chance. Sakura trembled in horror, tears slipping down her cheeks as she saw her cousin whom she treated like her own brother gouge out his other eye and held it towards Itachi. She tried her best to not vomit out her dinner. This was not what she expected when she came here. She wanted to back away from this wretched place and run back home and slip into her mother's arms where she'd be safe from horrors like this. But her feet were transfixed to the spot, and she found that she could not move. You're the only person I can count on. My best friend. Shursui said, blood leaking from both of his empty eye sockets, and he had closed his eyelids. Please protect this village and the honor of the Uchiha name. He then said in a soft voice, and Sakura too. Take care of her for me, please. Sakura bit into her knuckle to stop herself from wailing hysterically. She wanted to cry from all her heart, and call out Shirsui's name, beg him to tell her what was all this about, and why was he doing this. But Inner had her glued on this spot. It was like, he knew that she shouldn't interfere with what was going on. She wanted it to stop, but Inner was suppressing her body control. Itachi closed his eyes and a crow flew towards them and landed over Shirsui's extended hand. It then picked up the eyeball from Shirsui's hands and then disappeared in a flurry of feathers. I accept it. What will you do now? Itachi said, his own eyes whirling red with Sharingan. His voice sounded detached. If I die, several circumstances will change. I've left behind a note already, Shirsui said as he stepped backwards towards the very edge of the cliff. Wait, Shirsui! Itachi yelled as he ran towards Shirsui, who stopped him by saying, Don't stop me, Itachi! Itachi stopped at his friend's words. Shirsui smiled warmly as he stepped off the cliff, accepting his death. Shirsui! No! Both Sakura and her Inner cried out inside her mind, but her body was frozen, hence it didn't even react, besides the trembling, and the tears that didn't seem to stop flowing. Itachi yelled out in despair, reaching out to catch his friend from falling to his death, but his hand just grazed his, and soon Shirsui was falling down from the cliff, straight into the Naka River flowing at the end of the rift between the two cliffs. That means you're my sister! That's so cool! I am Shirsui Uchiha. Nice to meet you, Chibi-chan. As a ninja, it is my duty to do everything I can to protect the village. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't like, but they're still important for keeping everyone safe. Sometimes we have to think about others before ourselves. I want to protect it, Sakura. I want to protect the village and my precious people. And I will do anything to protect them, even if I have to sacrifice myself for it. No need to be scared, Sakura. I will not let anything harm you, I promise. I will always be there with you in here. Brother Shirsui. Blood leaked out from the eyes as the black swirling dots of the Sharingan turned into wheel-like shape of the next stage of the Sharingan. That night, not one, but two people awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. To be honest, Naruto was worried for his best friend. She had been looking pale, with bags under her eyes and her green eyes losing that warm spark that he loved about her. Also, these days she rarely played any prank on anyone, and yesterday she even refused to have ramen. Oh, the horror! No one refuses ramen like that, especially Sakura, because even she agrees that ramen is the food of gods. So what had happened? He did not know. But he did know one thing, that he was not the only one who had noticed her changed behavior. That weird girl who always faints around him, what's her name again? Oh yeah, Hinata, she had also noticed her strange behavior. And then there was Iruka-sensei, an old man Hokage, and even her own grandmother who were worried about her. Heck, even that bastard Sasuke asked about Sakura's well-being that one time, and that's saying something because Kami knows that bastard has the emotional capability of a teaspoon. So yeah, Naruto believes he is right to worry about his friend's health. Sakura? He asked one day, stopping the pink-haired girl as soon as the last bell. He flinched when she looked at him with her emotionless green eyes. Are you okay? I mean, you seem distant lately. Hinata quickly picked up her bag and appeared next to him, waiting anxiously for Sakura's reply. I'm fine. The pink-haired girl replied coolly, her voice devoid of any emotion, as she grabbed her bag and walked past them. Are you sure? Why you've been acting SS strange since Shirsui's death? Hinata squeaked out, poking her fingers nervously while looking at her friend from the corner of her eyes. Yes, she replied, without turning towards them, though her next words had them wincing. Though I'd like it very much if you mind your own business. Saying this, she stormed out of the class, not noticing the hurt looks passed between them. She sat alone under a tree outside the Ninja Academy, glancing down at a book blankly, with her mind not even grasping a word of what she read. The sound of footsteps neared her, and she glanced up and saw Sasuke looking down at her figure, looking hesitant about something. She looked back down at her book, ignoring his existence entirely. She had nothing to say to him. He placed his hands in his pocket and looked at her intensely. The weight of his stare did not even faze her. He sighed and said in a quiet, but strong tone, "You will be fine." She glanced up at him, and saw him smile at her for the first time. He placed his hand over her shoulder and squeezed it. "I know you will." He gave her a closed-eye smile as she stared at him blankly, and then he walked away from her, and soon she heard a happy shout of Itachi. You came! As Sasuke hugged his brother. Sakura stared at the two brothers as they talked to each other, ignoring the pang in her heart. Itachi looked tired, and he was even more tense for some reason, but the happy glint in his eyes at the sight of his precious little brother was unmistakable. As Sasuke chatted with Itachi at the speed of a mile per hour, Itachi glanced at Sakura for a moment, and she stared back. Itachi looked like he wanted to come and talk to her. Considering how she had brushed him off during Shursui's funeral, that was to be expected to happen sooner or later. Well, it's not like she had treated him like that exceptionally. She had brushed off almost everyone during the funeral, and after that. And it doesn't look like she'll start warming up to others sometime soon. Please protect this village and the honor of the Uchiha name and Sakura too. Take care of her for me, please. She slammed her book shut and walked away from there quickly. She wanted nothing to do with her dead brother's best friend, who let everyone believe that her brother had committed suicide, when the truth is far from this lie he had concocted. And for what? To protect the person who stole Shursui's eye. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. You're the only person I can count on. My best friend. Shursui said, blood leaking from both of his empty eye sockets, and he had closed his eyelids. Please protect this village and the honor of the Uchiha name. He then said in a soft voice, and Sakura too. Take care of her for me, please. Sakura. I accept it. What will you do now? Itachi said, his own eyes whirling red with Sharingan. His voice sounded detached. If I die, several circumstances will change. I've left behind a note already, Shursui said as he stepped backwards towards the very edge of the cliff. Sakura. Wait, Shursui. Itachi yelled as he ran towards Shursui, who stopped him by saying, Don't stop me, Itachi. Itachi stopped at his friend's words. Shursui smiled warmly as he stepped off the cliff, accepting his death. Shursui. Sakura. She jolted up, with her emerald green eyes open, and found herself in her room, wearing pajamas. She took deep breaths and placed her hands over her chest to calm her racing heart. Something warm slid down her cheeks and onto her dress. She placed one of her hands over her cheeks, and was surprised to find that they were wet from tears. She got out of her bed and stumbled towards the bathroom, trying her best to not make much noise so as to wake up her parents and Granny. She locked the bathroom door from inside. She took a deep breath as she walked towards the sink and glanced up at the mirror attached to the wall. Her green eyes looked dead, her skin was deathly pale, and there were dark bags under her eyes. Not only that, but she could see her pajamas, which normally fitted her nicely, were now a bit loose on her. So she had even lost weight. With her pink hair a mess, red rims around her eyes, and dried tear tracks on her cheeks, she looked like a corpse. I look horrible. No shit, Sherlock. Her inner said sarcastically. The corners of her lips twitched upwards, and for the first time in these 2 weeks, there was a smile on her face. She sighed and said, Thank you so much, Inner. For what? For being there with me for everything. Inner went quiet for a moment, and then he said in a soft voice, Sakura, you need to tell someone about it. Her eyes hardened as she glared at her reflection in the mirror. No. It has been 2 weeks since that incident. You need to get it off your chest and move on. I am moving on, she said angrily as she turned on the tap and splashed her face with water. Stop lying to yourself. You are depressed, and even you know that very well. Can't you see that your precious people are worried about you? Shursui wouldn't want you to waste your life moping around for him. Her green eyes flashed in anger, and she punched the mirror with a chakra-laced fist, making it shatter into a million pieces. What would you know about it? You're not even real. You're just a figment of my imagination. You can't feel anything unlike me, since you are not even alive. She snarled in anger, and punching once again, this time creating cracks in the wall. Inner's voice turned cold as he retorted, I may not be real, but I am real enough to care about the ones I love. I may not be alive, but I do feel the pain of others when they see you fighting your inner demons. And unlike you, I am not heartless to ignore them when all they want to do is to help us. She flinched at his harsh, but true words. Her eyes watered, but no tears leaked out from them. It has been like this since Shursui jumped off that cliff. She wanted to sob, cry, wail, scream and rant at the unfairness of this all, but somehow all she felt was this hollowness inside her. Would this hollow feeling never go away? She didn't want to worry anyone, but somehow, she had ended up making them worry even more. Her lips quivered, as she slowly sank to the ground, unable to stand any longer. She took a deep breath, I never asked for this. I never asked for them to worry about me. They're your precious people, Sakura. It's their job to worry about you. Just like Shursui did. His words echoed through her mind, breaking the dam of emotions inside her. Finally, that hollow feeling lifted from her chest, giving in to pain, sadness, hurt, and regret. Tears ran down through her cheeks full force, and she tried her best to stop them, but they did not stop. Her inner chuckled and said, "You know, sometimes it's okay to cry. A real shinobi never cries." She mumbled under her breath as she curled her knees towards her chest and lay down on the bathroom floor, sobbing quietly. Well then, we'll just have to crush all of those real shinobi to prove our worth. Something inside her snapped at his words, and she saw a strange vision. You're right, in the ninja world, those who break the rules and laws are regarded as scum. But those who'd abandon even one of their friends are even worse than scum. I'm scum anyway, so I will choose to break the rules. If doing that somehow makes me less of a true shinobi, then I'll just go and crush all of the real shinobi. She blinked in confusion when her vision cleared. That voice, it sounded like Inner's, isn't it? And was it her imagination, or did she saw a boy with orange goggles and funky red eyes like Shursui's and Itachi's? That doesn't make any sense. And why is Inner being so unusually quiet? She mumbled quietly as a soft smile appeared on her lips, with tears falling down from her vibrant emerald green eyes, crushing all of the real shinobi. That kinda sounds nice, doesn't it, Inner? However, Inner didn't give any reply to her question. She watched from the shadows as Sakura finally broke down. She watched as she shattered a mirror with a bare fist, and even made a crack in the wall with her chakra-enhanced punch. She watched it all as Sakura laid on the bathroom floor, crying her eyes out and babbled nonsense. She heard Sakura mumble at last, with a heartbreaking smile on her face. Crushing all of the real shinobi, that kinda sounds nice, doesn't it, Inner? She closed her eyes and clenched her fist in resolve. Her suspicions were true, after all. This girl is not any ordinary child. She has an experience of another lifetime with her, if judging by her actions and words. And the proof of this had been given to her 2 weeks ago, when this girl came home as a very different person, looking as if she was possessed. But now, watching her vow to break the idea of an ideal shinobi, just to prove her worth, made her heart swell with pride. Maybe, just maybe, this is the child she had been looking around for years. Maybe Obito wasn't the child she had been looking for. Maybe this girl, this little pink-haired child, is the catalyst. If she is, then she'd trust her judgment. She had been hiding the truth for her from her own safety. But if this is the child who will bring peace to this war-torn world someday, then it won't do her any good to hide the truth from her anyways. She deserves to know this truth, because after all, she is the one who will save everyone one day, and she has already started walking towards her destiny. Even though she doesn't remember it. So yes, she will tell her everything. Everything. Despite what the Lord Third said, when push comes to shove, he will do whatever it takes to protect the Hidden Leaf Village. I want you to choose. Align with the Uchiha and launch the coup d'etat, and be slaughtered alone with your family. Or side with the Leaf, and before they attempt a coup d'etat, eliminate every Uchiha except your little brother. Stares with wide eyes eliminate the Uchiha? In order to protect the village, every possible step must be taken to avoid the mayhem. The only one that can handle this mission is you, a double agent for both the Uchiha and the Leaf. Gives an impassive look. There is no one else, Itachi. Will you accept this mission? Glances down in defeat. Yes, Lord Danzo. The village, the clan shinobi. Is fighting inevitable? Is there really no other way? The village or the clan? What should I do, Shursui? Where are you taking me, Granny? Sakura asked in confusion as she followed her grandmother, as she led her to the basement of their house. Once upon a time her grandfather used to use the basement as his secret hideout of sorts, but after his death, it was turned into a storeroom. Who knows how many years' worth junk was lying around in this basement? She looked around curiously, noticing all kind of rubbish was lying in the storeroom: old furniture, antique paintings, some cardboard boxes containing their old things, and whatnot. She squeaked as she bumped into her grandmother, as she suddenly stopped. Apologizing for not paying attention, she glanced up as she saw her grandmother walk towards a bookshelf in front of her. Sayuri pulled out a thick book with battered brown cover, and to Sakura's surprise the bookshelf moved to a side, revealing a hidden passage with a door blocking her way, with seals written all over it, blocking her path. Awesome! I didn't know there was a secret passage in the basement, Sakura exclaimed excitedly, making Sayuri's lips twitch upwards. You don't know a lot of things, my dear little Sakura. Sayuri said as she bit her thumb and spread her blood over the seals on the door. The seals glowed, and then the door opened. Amazing! Sakura exclaimed as she eagerly followed her grandmother into the hidden passage. As soon as she stepped inside, the door automatically shut itself, and the walls of the passage shimmered with seals, lightening up their path as they walked forward. She wondered what she will find down in the hidden passageway. Some sort of treasure? Or a room filled with forbidden information? Maybe Granny is hiding something really cool down there. Like a nuclear bomb. What about a dragon egg or something? Oh, maybe a gateway to the other world? Inner sweat dropped at her crazy thoughts and muttered, don't you think you're going too far? Dragons? Gateway to another world? Seriously? She scratched the back of her head sheepishly. She snapped into attention when she saw the end of the tunnel coming nearer, signifying by a bright light. She followed her grandmother as she walked into the bright light, and she stepped next to her into the room. What she saw in that room froze her to the core. Her shoulders tensed, and her green eyes widened as her face paled. Her breathing turned shallow, and it took all of her strength to not faint at the sight in front of her. Impossible. Her pink hair danced in the wind. Her breathing was ragged as she ran to the end of the northeast of the Leaf Village where the Uchiha compound is located. I have to find him. I need to tell him the truth. The sky darkened as the stars twinkled in the night sky. The night was slowly befalling over the village, and everyone was inside their houses, getting ready to go to bed. All except one. She ran with only one thought in her mind. I have to tell him. Itachi at least deserves to know the truth. A relieved look fell over her face as soon as the gates of the Uchiha compound came into her view. She was here, finally. I need to tell him that he is not alone. She slowed down her pace as she panted heavily to catch her breath, and then she opened the gates of the compound and ran into the streets. I have to tell him that. Only to freeze at the sight before her. Fugaku asked in an angry tone, glaring at his son with his Sharingan eyes. Itachi, what lies beyond this slaughter? Are you going to show me a different future from the one I showed you? Itachi glanced down, and then looked up at his father, his Sharingan eyes turning into pinwheel-like shape of the Mangekyo. This, he said as he showed his father a vision that made his heart shudder. This is what I see for the future of the village and the clan. I see, Fugaku said as he deactivated his Sharingan and looked at his son in remorse. Sasuke? He then puffed out in smoke, surprising even Itachi. A shadow clone? It was a cold-blooded slaughter. There were splatters of blood everywhere, and dead bodies lay in the street. The smell of blood entered her nostrils, making her tremble as she puked out the contents of her stomach. She remembered so many among these dead people. There was old lady Hana for whom she had carried groceries so many times, and then there was the grumpy old man Shuya who would make her clean his rooftops and then would kick her out of his house, but not before sneaking a candy into her pocket. They lay dead in the middle of the street, with the grocery bag in old lady Hana's hand half torn and covered in dirt and blood, and the groceries spilling out of it. She remembered the little kids who used to beg her to play with them, and somehow always end up with making her the bad guy when they played ninja. And now here they were, lying around dead, with their limbs missing. There was that Leaf police officer who used to drag up her and Naruto and punish them whenever they pranked any Uchiha. He lay dead, with a huge slash over his chest. Her stomach churned unpleasantly as she trembled with horror, with tears flowing out of her eyes unstoppably. What happened here? Who in the world did this? And why? Sakura, you need to get out here, now. What, Ash? A sword ripped through her stomach, and there were splatters of blood everywhere. I don't want to participate in a death match with my son, Fugaku admitted as he sat calmly next to Mikoto in their living room, with their backs towards Itachi. Itachi walked forwards with his sword in his hands, and his Sharingan eyes staring at her parents' backs. His ANBU clothes were torn from many places and splattered with blood. His footsteps echoed as he neared his parents, his sword gleaming in moonlight coming from the window. I see, Fugaku said. You've aligned with the other side. Father, mother, his throat turned dry, and he didn't know what to say to them. We already know, Itachi, Mikoto said in a calm tone, accepting the fact that she was going to die in the next few minutes. Itachi, promise me this, Fugaku said, not turning towards his son, and his voice softened as he said, take care of Sasuke. Tears welled down his eyes as he promised, I will. His hands which held the sword trembled. He did not want to do this. He did not want to kill his parents. But as a shinobi, it was his duty to protect his village, even if he had to kill his parents for it. Do not fear it, Fugaku said in a proud tone. This is the path you've chosen. Compared to yours, our pain will be over in an instant. Our philosophies may differ, but I am proud of you. Sobs wrecked through his body as he tried, but failed to keep in his tears. His very own soul felt like it was being shattered into pieces. You truly are a kind child, Fugaku said in a soft voice and closed his eyes, awaiting the final blow. Itachi held up his sword and brought it down on his parents, killing both of them in one strike. She fell down on the ground, blood pooling around her. An unbearable pain shot through her stomach, burning through her body. She placed her hand over her wound to try to stop the bleeding, but it won't work. She could have used her medical ninjutsu to stop the bleeding, but unfortunately, the wound was way too deep and it seems like it had nicked her internal organs, as well as the fact that the sight of blood made her nauseous didn't help the situation at all. She wondered why she even bothered to be a medic ninja when she always fainted at the sight of blood. Her emerald green eyes that used to hold warmth that was loved by everyone, glazed over and started dulling. Her thoughts were all turning to mush, and she found it hard to stay awake. Her eyelids felt heavier by the second, and she wondered if she could take a nap. Maybe for a second? She could hear inner screaming inside her mind, but the pain was overriding all her senses, which was followed by numbness. She soon found herself drowsing off, though deep inside her she knew she had to fight back. But the sleep was too tempting to pass. She opened her eyes for one last time, and her glazed-over vision did not help her at all, but she swore she could see an orange mask with spiral patterns over it, with a Sharingan eye glaring at her from one hole. You chose a very wrong time to visit the compound, little girl. That was the last thing she heard before she drifted into darkness. Oh no, what have you done? Sasuke asked with wide eyes as he stared at the corpses of his father and mother lying on the ground, blood pooling around them, and Itachi stood over them, his face an emotionless mask, and he stared at him like a predator stares at its prey. Foolish little brother, I almost pity you, Itachi said in a cold tone and then closed his eyes. When he opened them next, the kamas of the Sharingan had shifted into the next stage. Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi said as he pulled Sasuke into a genjutsu far worse than anything in the shinobi world. A genjutsu based on the Mangekyo Sharingan, also known as Tsukuyomi. A pained scream rang around the Uchiha compound, piercing through the darkness that had Sakura in its clutches. Sasuke! Green eyes snapped open as she took deep breaths. She was alone now, her attacker must have gone, thinking that she was dead. Oh Kami, don't scare me like that ever again. She groaned in pain and clutched her wound, which was still bleeding heavily. The blood loss was making her vision blurry, she found it hard once again to fight off the drowsiness. Don't you dare to die on me, Sakura! Inner screeched in her mind, chasing off the drowsiness. Sakura whimpered and cried at the pain she was feeling. She hiccuped and trembled, remembering how the sword easily slashed into her stomach. Oh God, she could have died by now. Oh God. Calm down. Stop panicking, Inner said as he calmed the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. You are a medical ninja in training. Use mystic palm technique to heal yourself. Be but the blood dash. It's not gonna bite, you know. You are a medic in training. Pull yourself together. Besides, we heard Sasuke's screams a moment ago, didn't we? What if that assassin had attacked him too? We need to help him. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she cried out in pain and self-loathing. I couldn't even put up a fight against that masked man, how can I even think of saving Sasuke? She bit her lip and thought, and maybe I should get back home as soon as I can and tell Granny Sayuri about it. She may be able to do something about it. So you're going to run away while your friend's life is in danger? Is that why you've been training so hard till now, just so that you can run away at the first chance you get? You are just going to abandon your friend like that? I'm just . Have you forgotten already? In the ninja world, those who break the rules and laws are regarded as scum. But those who'd abandon even one of their friends are even worse than scum. Inner's voice softened as he said to her, you are braver than you think, Sakura. Just believe in yourself, because I believe in you. So does everyone else. Even Shursui. She squeezed her eyes shut. So, stop doubting yourself and get up. She took a shaky breath as her hand glowed a pale bluish green, and her wound started healing. It was not much, but at least it had stopped the bleeding for now. She got up shakily, and panted slightly. She clenched her fists as she stood up. She opened her eyes, however, there was something different about them now. Her eyes were filled with determination and shone with courage that she never knew she possessed. However, the red of the Sharingan was unmistakable in her right eye. Itachi. Please. Don't kill me. You're not even worth killing, foolish little brother. If you wish to kill me one day, foster your hatred and despise me. Surviving in such an unsightly manner as this. Chuckles harshly, by all means flee. Cling to your wretched life. And no. Itachi and Sasuke both glanced sideways, and saw a pink-haired girl standing in the middle of the street, with corpses laying all around her. Itachi's eyes zeroed on the wound on her stomach that was partially healed, and the way she clutched it. Her orange goggles were tilted and splattered with blood, and her hair shadowed her eyes. He gritted his teeth in frustration. That Madara! Sakura! Sasuke cried out in horror. He was still trembling in fear. Go away while you still can, or he will kill you too, just like he killed the entire clan. I don't believe you, she said in a cold tone as she walked towards them slowly. Don't come here. I'm telling you, he will kill you just like he killed everyone. Itachi, she took a deep breath. No, he would never do something like this. He would never kill his own family like that. Never. What do you know of me, you foolish little girl? Itachi said in a mocking tone as Sakura kept walking towards them, and finally stood in front of Sasuke, facing Itachi, with her pink hair shadowing her eyes. You are right, she said in a quiet tone. I may not know you, but I believe in my brother Shursui, who entrusted you to protect this village and this clan. You would never sully his memories by breaking his promise. Itachi just stared at her. How did she? Well then, he said coldly as he unsheathed his sword, let me prove it to you how I broke my promise to Shursui. Saying this, he rushed towards her and attacked her with his sword, but was surprised when she defended herself from his attack with a kunai in her hand. He kept attacking her, but she parried with him for every blow. She stepped back and pursued his lips. How could she keep up with his moves? Unless the Itachi I know would never do anything without reason. So tell me, what is your reason for slaughtering the entire Uchiha clan? She asked him in a quiet tone. Tell me. She snarled at him as she glanced up. The moonlight fell over her eyes, and he saw that her left eye was closed. But what stunned him was the fact that in her right eye the 3 black commas of the Sharingan were spinning. Shursui, you were right, your sister is truly worthy of the Uchiha name. Why, you ask? To test the limits of my abilities, Itachi said coldly. To test your abilities? She narrowed her eyes as she looked at him. That's a load of bullshit, and you know it. If you think I am going to believe your lies, then you are dead wrong. I don't have to explain anything to you, he said coolly as he sheathed his sword. You are not even worth my time. Saying this, once again his eyes turned to the second stage. Mangekyo's Sharingan. Her world turned black and red, and she found she could not move. She was tied to a pole, and Itachi stood in front of her with his sword in his hand. You know how your dearest older brother died? Itachi taunted her as he tilted his head. I was the one who killed him. You're lying, she said as she gritted her teeth and struggled against the bounds, but to no avail. Why don't you see for yourself, then? He said mockingly as several visions appeared before her in red and black. Shursui stood on the top of the cliff, blood leaking from both of his empty eye sockets. No, stop, she said as she shook her head and trembled in fear, with tears rolling down her cheeks. Shursui kept walking backwards towards the very edge of the cliff. Please, no! She sobbed and wailed like a lunatic, but Itachi was not fazed at all. Shursui smiled warmly as he stepped off the cliff, accepting his death. No! Sakura screamed in agony, as Itachi mercilessly made her see that vision again, and again, and again. I was the one who made Shursui take such a drastic step. I was the one who gouged out his eyes. I was the one who killed him, Itachi said in an emotionless tone, his voice rising with each sentence. She looked up at him and gave him a wobbly smile. I pity you, Itachi. Itachi just stared impassively at her. She looked at him with her mismatched eyes and said, You know why I came to the Uchiha compound today? I came here to tell you something. Came here to tell you that you don't have to burden everything alone, that you are not alone, that you still have a chance, Itachi. But I was too late. She choked out a sob. I wished I could have told you sooner. I had blamed you for Shursui's death for a long time now. Then she shook her head and muttered, How foolish I've been. I blamed you for something that wasn't even your fault. She looked up at him and gave him a warm smile, and even though she was still crying, and covered in blood, Itachi felt like this is the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. It is hard, isn't it, to follow your will of fire when you're torn apart from inside? Itachi was too stunned to speak. Somehow, her words had hit home. I don't understand what you're doing, and why you're doing it, she said, but I guess in a twisted way you are doing everything you can to protect the village and the Uchiha name, even though I don't understand it one bit. Isn't that what you promised my brother Itachi? She glanced up at the red and black sky of the Tsukuyomi world, and she muttered with a glazed look in her mismatched eyes, Shursui once told me that a shinobi is the one who obeys the laws of his village. The shinobi of the Leaf Village protect their friends, even if it means risking their own lives, because that is their will of fire. She looked at him with a piercing gaze. But is it really our village's way to sacrifice our friends' lives from start? Somehow, even if your cruel actions would end up saving this village from a big disaster, do you think they'd be proud of what you did for their sake when they come to know the truth? The upcoming generations of children would never be able to believe in the will of fire if they ever came to know the reason behind your actions. They would be disgusted by their own village. She looked down at her feet and said, I myself may not know the reason behind your actions, but I know you'd never do anything that would harm the village in any way, so why? Why do you believe that killing your entire clan would bring peace in future? Why would you sacrifice everything just for something you believe is for the good of the village? Is this your will of fire? She then looked up at him, and he gasped when he saw her right eye spinning in a pinwheel shape, the shape of Mangekyo Sharingan. Is this your ninja way? The world of Tsukuyomi broke down as soon as Sakura found herself back in the real world. It seemed to her like she had spent days in the Mangekyo world, but in reality, only mere seconds have passed. She panted as she deactivated her Mangekyo Sharingan, and fainted from chakra exhaustion, but not before whispering. You may even kill me if you want, but I can never hate you, Itachi, for following your ninja way. I couldn't tell him in the end, after all. One day, maybe, we'll tell him the truth. We will bring him back to the village, no matter what. Yes, and that's a promise of a lifetime. It took a moment for Itachi to finally muster some semblance of sanity. Sakura had literally shred his soul into pieces, her words cutting deeper and deeper. However, it won't do him good to break down now, before even completing his task. So, mustering up his courage, he slipped on his emotionless mask as Sasuke fret over the unconscious Sakura, who lay down next to him. Sakura! No, wake up, please! Please! Sakura! Sasuke said hysterically as he shook her shoulders and tried to wake her up, but to no avail. So she wasn't even worth killing after all. She is worthless, just like you, my foolish little brother, Itachi said in a cold tone, freezing his little brother at the killing intent he leaked out. He then turned around and walked away, but not before saying, one day, when you possess the same eyes, come back and face me. He then turned his face towards Sasuke, his eyes spinning in the pattern of Mangekyo Sharingan, and soon, Sasuke's world turned black. First, you have my thanks, Itachi. Civil war has been averted in the Hidden Leaf. We have maintained peace. Yes, Lord Hokage. However, I regret that there was no other way to achieve this. I apologize. I am the one who must apologize. You will now be branded as a rogue ninja who massacred his entire clan, and be listed in the bingo book as a fugitive, wanted dead or alive. That goes without saying. What will you do from now? I've found aid from a group called the Akatsuki. I intend to stay close to them in order to make sure a promise is not broken. Please protect this village and the honor of the Uchiha name and Sakura too. Take care of her for me, please. I accept. Hiruzen, is there any reason why you called me here? Sayuri asked in a calm tone as she stared boringly at the Hokage and his three advisors Hamura, Koharu and Danzo that sat next to him in the council room. She may seem calm from outside, but inside she was seething. Right now she should be at the hospital, for her granddaughter's surgery, instead she was here with these bastards for God knows why. Before Hiruzen could sugarcoat his words, Danzo beat him to it as he said in an accusatory tone, I heard your granddaughter was present when Itachi murdered almost the entire Uchiha clan. Hiruzen shot him a look, but he ignored him. Your point? She asked coolly, in a detached tone. What a coincidence that she happened to be in the Uchiha compound at the exact time when Itachi killed his clan members, isn't it? He said calmly. Are you trying to accuse my granddaughter of something? Sayuri asked with a raised brow, her green eyes filled with dark amusement as she watched the war hawk discreetly put all the blame of the Uchiha massacre on her. So typical of you, Danzo, she mused wryly. If she hadn't been used to his antics, she'd have sorely upset by his not-so-discreet accusations. He was just trying to pull all the blame on her, so that if anyone even have a hint of doubt on him being behind this massacre, he'll just have to nudge him towards her, and no one would doubt at her being behind all this. And if someone even know the bad blood between her and the Uchiha clan, people won't even need a reason to not doubt her, and add to the fact that her own granddaughter had been found on the crime scene, people would surely start thinking the worst, and she'd be blamed for the Uchiha massacre. Typical. Not her, you, he said in his usual emotionless tone. Hiruzen wanted badly to butt in the conversation and try to placate the tension that was building between the two of them, but a sharp glance for Kohara made him bite his lip. Apparently, this matter is between two former teammates, so he should let them sort it out. Sayuri chuckled darkly, which did nothing to ease the tension in the room, and said in a mocking tone, "Oh, that's strange, considering the fact that you were the ones who ordered him to murder his own clan. Am I right or not, oh honorable council members?" The four of them tensed. "You shouldn't speak of such matters carelessly," Hamura said sharply. "Oh, did I hit a nerve now?" Sayuri said with an innocent face, but her dark green eyes told them that she was enjoying riling them up. "You should know your place, Sayuri," Kohara said with a glare. Sayuri returned her glare with full force and said, "I'm not the one who needs to be reminded of their places, Koharu." She then clenched her fists and said, "You three are the members of the council, you should start acting like one. You are not the Hokage, you have no right to order around the shinobi of this village as if they are your pawns, that right is of the fire shadow alone." She death glared at Koharu, Hamura and Danzo and continued her rant. "How desperate are you to cover up for your mishaps, that you are trying to accuse an 8-year-old for your crimes? Have you three gone senile? So you do not deny the fact that you had an ulterior motive in sending your granddaughter to the Uchiha compound at the night of the massacre?" Danzo accused her coolly. She laughed harshly and said, "Do you even hear what you're saying? Your words sound so ludicrous." She then said with an eye roll, "Sure, I knew that was going to happen sooner or later, but I didn't know that Sakura would choose that time to act on her obsession with Sasuke and stalk, I meant follow him into the Uchiha compound." She lied easily. After all, it was true though, sort of. Sakura had been a major fangirl of Sasuke, until lately when even the name of the said boy brought a scowl on her face. She still wondered what the hell happened to change her mind pretty quickly. Well, it's not like it mattered to her anyways. As long as Sakura took her training seriously, she'd overlook her eccentric quirks. She then processed Danzo's words again in her mind, and realized that the bastard actually threatened her dearest granddaughter in the guise of an accuse. She narrowed her eyes at the handicapped old bastard before she glowered as she stormed towards them and slammed her and on the table with a chakra-laced fist, making the four of them stare at her with wide eyes. "Don't you dare try to even think of hurting my precious little Sakura, or I swear I'll remind you why the Crimson Assassin is feared around the 5 great nations." She made sure to keep her glare at the old warmonger as she soon stormed out of the room and towards the hospital, where her granddaughter Sakura needed her most. She was so cold. Why was she so cold? She could feel sweat breaking out from her body, but she didn't feel any heat. She shivered, feeling the coldness settle in her bones. Her eyelids felt so heavy that it was a torture to open them. But she did, even if it was to escape the horrible images of dead Uchihas lying in a courtyard, because it was all a lie, right? There's no way someone would massacre the Uchiha clan, isn't it? Especially not Itachi. Right. Her vision was blurry, marred with white splotches here and there. Her head felt like it was splitting, and her stomach churned unpleasantly. She fought to keep the contents of her stomach from rising to her throat as the world around her spun, much to her confusion. Her eyelids, which felt as if they weighed a ton, closed shut, and once again, horrible images spun to life in her mind. She opened her eyes for one last time, and her glazed-over vision did not help her at all, but she swore she could see an orange mask with spiral patterns over it, with a Sharingan eye glaring at her from one hole. She shifted her upper body towards the side and retched out the contents of her stomach, trembling horribly, trying to shake the horrible image out of her mind. Someone brought a bucket next to her as she vomited out her last meal. She felt someone push her hair back, and muttering soothing words to her as she emptied the contents of her stomach. When she was done, the other person helped her lay back on the bed and hummed her to sleep. Much to her relief, Inner banished those horrible images to some corner of her mind, so she could sleep peacefully. Sayuri placed her hand over her granddaughter's forehead and bit her lip when she realized that her fever was still high. It has been a week since the Uchiha massacre, a week since her dear Sakura had fallen under the she turned sick, and each day her condition was getting worse. She had been waiting for her to wake up so that she could discuss something important with her, but it doesn't look like she'll recover soon. Sakura tossed and turned in her sleep, whimpering and panting with sweat glistening from her body. She must have something going on in her mind, and it doesn't look good at all. She wonders if Sakura will wake up soon. Sighing, Sayuri placed her glowing green hands over her forehead and eased some of her pain. When Sakura could breathe much easier than before, she removed her hands from her forehead. Then she walked away, but not before glancing at her for one last time. "Wake up soon, my dear little Sakura," she whispered and walked out of that hospital room. She wearily glanced at the door as someone turned the knob from the other side, and then the door opened. Sayuri Haruna was startled to see her granddaughter awake after 2 long weeks' unconsciousness. "Oh, you're awake!" she exclaimed as she rushed towards her granddaughter and started checking her vitals as she helped her sit up and lean against a pillow. "Gee, Granny?" Sayuri, who had been checking up on her fever, halted when she heard the broken voice of her granddaughter. She glanced up at her dear little Sakura as she said in a detached tone, "You know, I had a really strange dream. I dreamed that Itachi killed the entire Uchiha clan except for Sasuke, but that's impossible, right?" "I don't think so," her inner muttered uncertainly. Sayuri bit her lower lip as she stared at her with a sad expression. "Oh, Sakura," she then sighed and said in a pained voice, "It was not a dream, it's real." Sakura stared at her with wide eyes, looking at her pleadingly to not complete her statement, but she did anyways. 2 weeks ago, Itachi Uchiha murdered his entire clan, except for his younger brother. Her breathing quickened and she shook her head vehemently, trying her best not to cry. "No, it's not true. You're lying, Granny." "No, Outer, she is not. She has to be. There's no possible way Itachi would dash." "I know, even if Itachi didn't kill his clan, then someone else did. You do remember what happened that night, right?" "Yeah." Sayuri frowned at her granddaughter. "Sweetie, have I ever lied to you before?" "No," but she bit her lip as her emerald green eyes desperately looked at her grandmother, with tears leaking out of them. "But I know it's not true." She paused before she could utter out some vital information just like that. The first lesson that her granny Sayuri had beaten into her was to not leak out any vital information unless you're sure that no enemy or unknown character can overhear you. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath and said, "There's something I need to tell you." The hard look in her eyes made Sayuri pause, and she slammed her hand on the floor. An array of runes jumbled out and spread around the room, and glowed brightly. As soon as she activated the privacy seals, she stared at Sakura and said coolly, "What did you want to tell me?" "Tell her the truth, she may be able to use that knowledge better than us. She is older than us and is more experienced. She may be able to help us out," Inner said to her soothingly. She took a deep breath, preparing herself for what she was going to say. "Itachi didn't kill his clan members." She then paused as she remembered how Sasuke had accused Itachi of killing their parents. He wouldn't have accused him of such a crime if he hadn't watched him do it with his own eyes, not all of them, anyway, she said in a quiet tone. "There was someone else present there that night, who I am certain is the person who killed the entire Uchiha clan." "How are you so sure about it?" Sayuri asked her warily. Sakura's eyes averted from her granny's sharp ones, and she subconsciously placed a hand over her bandaged torso and winced, and said, "Because the said attacker had attacked me too." The horrible memory started playing in her mind once again, and she cringed. An orange mask with spiral patterns over it, with a Sharingan eye glaring at her from one hole. Thankfully, Inner banished it before Sakura could start panicking over it, but her body had started trembling at the mere image of that man appearing in her mind. It took all her self-control to not have a panic attack at the very moment. Sayuri clenched her fists and gritted her teeth in anger. Someone harmed her little cub, or the bastard is so gonna pay. "Who was it?" she asked calmly, although she was feeling anything but calm. "Did you see him or something?" Sakura shook her head as her trembling didn't stop. "I didn't. My vision was all blurry when I saw him, though I did see an orange mask." She then licked her dry lip as she remembered a finer detail of that masked man, but he had one Sharingan eye in his right eye, just like mine. She pointed at her own right eye as she said that, surprising Sayuri. Sayuri frowned. The other attacker was an Uchiha too? How was that possible? Was he some rogue Uchiha whom she had no information about? Or someone from the clan who at the last moment decided to side with Itachi, but remain anonymous so as not to get pulled into clan politics and all? The sheer possibilities of this unknown variable in this situation made her head spin. Ugh, she hated unknown variables. They made strategizing even much more difficult, and that's saying something considering she was one of the best tacticians of Konoha in her youth, and had been the sensei of the former Ino Shikucho trio. "Granny?" She hummed thoughtlessly as she thought of various possibilities, and about how she was going to breach this subject to Shikaku. Maybe she shouldn't bother telling him about this. It'd be better to not drag him in this mess, not until she had at least an inkling of who this unknown attacker was. "Will you tell me why Itachi did what he did?" Sakura asked shyly, her voice trembling as she tried her best not to start crying again. Now that brought Sayuri out of her stupor. What? She asked stupidly. Was she gulped in fear? Even such a possibility made her fear for the future of Konoha. Was he ordered to take such a drastic step? Because the Itachi I know would have never done anything like this. Her lips quivered, her eyes filled with tears as she stared up at her grandmother. So why? Why would he do something so cruel, Granny? Sayuri's heart clenched as she watched Sakura's pleading expression. She wanted to tell her everything, really. But she couldn't. Sakura was too young to be dragged into this mess, which was nothing but a badly played political move. If Sakura ever got to know the truth behind the Uchiha massacre, she'd lose faith from her own village and the will of fire. So Sayuri just sighed and ruffled her pink hair and said, "Don't worry about it, Sakura. You don't have to burden yourself with such things." "But you'll tell me the truth someday, won't you?" she asked pleadingly. "Someday." She agreed with her, hiding her crossed fingers behind her back. She prayed to God that the day Sakura knows the truth never comes. Ainutori Saruhitsuji. Summoning Jutsu. Poof, Lady Sayuri? Greetings, Takashi. I thought you were tending to your cub? I heard from the triplets that their new summoner had been injured gravely. Says in a dark tone she is fine now, though we have business to attend to. Which is? Chuckles mockingly. Apparently, some moron thought it'd be a good idea to fatally injure my granddaughter. So that means... Smirks sadistically. Yes, Takashi. It's time for hunting. Two figures in shadows sneaked into a silent hallway, and then hid outside a room, outside which a huge board hung saying morgue. The two masked figures sensed the chakra around them, and when they confirmed that no one was around, they sneaked into the room without making any noise. The two of them glanced over the many bodies that laid in the morgue. One of the masked ninja hands signed the other in A and B codes, and the other replied back with hand signs as he pulled out a container filled with a liquid used for preserving organs, while the other masked figure pulled off a blanket from a dead body, revealing a dead Uchiha's corpse. The masked ninja's hands glowed green and was about to gouge out the Uchiha's eyes, when suddenly, some cherry blossom petals fell from the ceiling. A genjutsu? The two masked figures thought as they stopped their chakra flow for a moment, and then increased it, but the genjutsu wasn't released. Boom! A voice floated around them, startling them. Suddenly, the walls of the room glowed brightly with seals, as the cherry blossom petals started exploding. Both the masked figures didn't even get the time to think about anything before they were caught in the explosion, and while they were distracted by the explosions, a kunai pierced through their jugular vein with precision, killing them in an instant. A pair of jade green eyes watched coldly as the two masked figures fell down on the floor with a thud, the container slipping from one of their hands and shattered in a million pieces. Oh dear, I must be getting old if my dear old teammate Danzo thinks I won't realize his petty attempts at stealing the Uchiha eyes. The woman said in a mocking tone as she sealed the two dead root ninjas in a scroll, and deactivated the privacy seals as she cleaned up the mess made by the root agents. He always forgets that there's a reason why I'm called the Crimson Assassin, she said with a smirk on her lips, and her jade green eyes shining with dark amusement. You're insane, Sayuri blurted out as she stared at Hiruzen, who just smoked from his pipe, having no care in the world, although the dark bags under his eyes said otherwise. I am not, he said wearily, rubbing his eyes as he could feel a headache coming after dealing with all this shit that has gone down after the Uchiha massacre. The no of shinobi on active duty rooster have taken a hit, all thanks to the massacre, and now he had to make his ninjas pull a double shift and hand out missions much more frequently to keep their economy from collapsing. And not only that, but he had to make his ANBU do even the work of the Leaf Police Force, other than their usual missions. By the time all this settles down, he was sure he'd get a worse headache. Then why are you even suggesting that I take Sasuke Uchiha under my jurisdiction? Sayuri asked flatly. It's either that, or letting him join Root and hand him to Danzo on a silver platter, which frankly I am very reluctant to do so, Hiruzen said as he grimaced, looking as if he had aged a decade in just 2 weeks. She could sympathize with him. After all, he is the one who has all the workload of this village on his shoulders. The most affected by the Uchiha massacre is probably him. She just raised an eyebrow at that. He sighed and said, Look, you are the only one who can take him in. Since the whole Uchiha clan was massacred, there's no one whom we can hand over Sasuke. Itachi doesn't count, he is already registered as a missing nin and a traitor to the Leaf Village. You, Sayuri, had once been a part of Uchiha clan. Even though you had been kicked out of the clan, you can't deny the fact that you have Uchiha blood running in your veins. He then gave her a look and said, So just suck it up and take responsibility over him. Ugh, fine. She groaned at the thought of having more responsibility than she already does. She then gave Hiruzen a sharp look and pointed a finger at him warningly, but don't expect me to take him home and treat him like a family, because no Uchiha brat will ever be a part of my family, considering the fact that the Uchihas had never treated me like a family. She then muttered under her breath in a bitter tone, those bastards had never treated me like a family. Why should I even extend the same courtesy to their last surviving member? Poof. Did you find anything, Takeshi? No, Lady Sayuri. There were no traces of scent or his chakra or whatsoever. And the only trail we somehow got hold of was very faint and had gotten cold. We couldn't even trace him. Darn it! Sasuke, Sakura said softly one day, while her grandmother had been feeding her forcefully so she could take her medicines afterwards. How is he? It has been some days since she had woken up, and had met her friends Hinata and Naruto, who had been worried sick about her. Hinata had come to visit her after making her father put an appointment to visit her in the hospital. However, since Naruto was not allowed in the private section of the hospital and was banned from the hospital for reasons that were unknown to her, Granny Sayuri had to smuggle him inside so that he could at least stop annoying her day in and day out to make him meet her. Sayuri pursued her lips as she replied, not so good. He has been unresponsive to anything ever since he had been woken up from his Sharingan-induced genjutsu. That boy is depressed, that much is obvious, and has not gotten over the fact that his clan has been killed, by his elder brother no less. She then sighed and said with a groan, if he keeps this up, I'm afraid he'll kill himself with some suicide attempt, or something. Then she muttered something along the lines of, and then Hiruzen will kill me for sure. Per him, he has no family left. No wonder he's depressed. Iner said as he sympathized with Sasuke. Sakura glanced outside the window, and stared at the 4 carved faces of the previous leaders of the Leaf Village on the Hokage monument, and her eyes glimmered with determination. Let me talk to him. Why? Her grandmother asked as she raised her brow. I have a favor to return, she said, remembering Sasuke's words when he had tried to raise her spirits when she had been depressed after Shirsui's death. Sasuke placed his hands in his pocket and looked at her intensely. The weight of his stare did not even faze her. He sighed and said in a quiet, but strong tone, you will be fine. She glanced up at him, and saw him smile at her for the first time. He placed his hand over her shoulder and squeezed it. I know you will. He gave her a closed-eye smile as she stared at him blankly, and then he walked away from her. Sakura stared at Sasuke, who just sat there on the hospital bed, wearing the hideous hospital gown, staring ahead in front of him with a faraway expression. His pale skin was paler than usual, and the usual shine was gone from his black hair. There was a dead and cold look in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. She walked near his bed and climbed over it, sitting next to him. She placed her hands on his cheeks, which felt slightly cool on her touch. She stared into his onyx eyes, and she saw something change in them. Recognition, probably? Or a sort or camaraderie? She slid her right hand from his cheek to his shoulder, and squeezed it, and said quietly, Sasuke, stay strong. You will be fine. I know you will. She then gave him a closed-eye smile and said warmly, though with a hoarse tint in it, after all, I never abandoned my comrades in their time of need. Something inside him snapped, and a tear leaked out of his onyx eyes. And then another. And another. Soon enough, he was crying his heart out, while Sakura hugged him and rubbed his back calmly, and spoke soothing words to him. They may not be friends, but they were now comrades of sorts who shared the same pain, though for different reasons. Sasuke wanted to take revenge for the pain he was suffering through, while Sakura wished no one ever suffered through the pain she was going through. And the only way both of them could achieve their wishes was to be strong. Time to start training seriously. 4 years later. Graduation exam day. Gentle fist art, 8 trigrams 64 palms. 8 trigrams 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 pal. Hinata's feet stumbled and she tripped down, breathing heavily with sweat marring her forehead. The dummy she had been practicing on was shredded to pieces with her attacks. Hinata! Sakura and Naruto cried out as they ran towards their friend and helped her sit up. Sakura's hands glowed green as she healed the minor scraps on Hinata's arms and legs and said, You don't have to push yourself so hard, Hinata. I'm sure you'll get it soon. Hinata's eyes watered and she said, but when, Sakura? I thought I'd surprise my father by showing him TT this technique how cc can I make him pp proud of me if I can't even do TT this jutsu that even BB brother and Niji has mastered a while ago. Sakura sighed as she sat down next to Hinata, and patted the space on the ground next to her for Naruto, and he immediately came and sat beside her. She looked at Hinata and said, "Look, Hinata, not everyone learns the same way." She bit her lip, wondering if she should say the next words or not, but then decided to be truthful and say them anyway. Niji, well, he may be a douchebag of worst kind, but even I can't deny the fact that he's a genius. Naruto's face soured as he muttered darkly, "I hate him." Sakura whirled her head towards him and smacked his arm, to which he scowled. "No one asked for your opinion." Then she turned her head towards Hinata, who had looked away, dejected, and said, "Anyway, as I was saying, that yes, your cousin may be rude, but he is a genius, no doubt about it. But Hinata, you are your own self, and that's all that matters." She laced her hand over her shoulder and squeezed it, and then said, "So what if you can't master the gentle fist 8 trigrams, 64 palms technique? I'm sure you'll come up with a better technique than that. Something that'll make the 64 palms look like a child's play compared to your awesome technique." Hinata's eyes watered as she asked in a sad tone, "Why you believe I can do such a thing, Sakura?" Sakura beamed at her and nodded. Suddenly, Ino whispered to her an idea, and her eyes brightened at that. If she's really having problems mastering 64 palms, why can't she just create a technique that's unique to her, and only her? "Ino, you're a genius!" Sakura gushed happily. "I am?" She snapped her fingers and said with a bright smile, "Hey, why don't you make your own technique?" Naruto grinned foxily and said, "Yeah. I like the sound of that." "And my own technique?" Hinata squeaked out. "That's right," Sakura said with a huge smile on her face. "You can make your own technique that only you can do, something that's unique and kick-ass. Then I'm sure your father will definitely be impressed with you." But how?" "I don't know," Hinata said as she bit her lip. "Don't worry, we'll help you out," Sakura said as she side-hugged Hinata. "Between the three of us, I'm sure we'll get you a new technique in no time." "Yeah, that's right," Naruto cheered as he gave a death hug to the two girls, and Hinata immediately turned red. If it was because of Naruto's close proximity, or because of the fact that Naruto was choking the both of them, Sakura couldn't tell. "CC can't be Ariada," Sakura said as she made weird choking sounds, and Naruto quickly released them, while smiled sheepishly. As Sakura regained her breath, she glared at Naruto. She kicked his shin, to which he yelped. "What was that for?" "You deserved it, bastard." "I'll show you," Naruto roared as he held Sakura in a chokehold, and while she pulled on his blonde hair. Hinata slowly inched away from them so as not to get caught in the catfight, but to no avail as Sakura pulled her towards them, by pulling on her jacket, and soon a three-way fight ensued between them. "Why are you causing such a ruckus in my backyard?" Granny Sayuri roared, making the three children freeze, and her gray hair whipping around her, and her emerald green eyes blazing in fury. The old woman stormed out of the house, and towards them, and pinned them with a glare, while she narrowed her eyes and placed her hands around her hips. "Explain," she ordered as she glanced at Sakura. The three of them untangled themselves, and stood straight, so as not to tick her off more than she already was. Sakura said as she glanced up at her granny, and scratched the back of her head sheepishly. "We were training?" "Yeah, right," Sayuri scoffed, while she glared at them. She then raised her eyebrows as she remembered something. "By the way, what are you still doing here? Don't you have your graduation test today?" "We're just having a last-minute training session, believe it," Naruto piped in. Sayuri rolled her eyes as she said bemusedly, "Oh really? Then shouldn't you be at the academy, considering you're already 30 minutes late?" "Oh crap!" The three of them yelled in unison as they took off towards the academy, leaving behind dust, which made Granny Sayuri cough. "Language!" she managed to croak out before they disappeared from her view. She then smiled softly and shook her head, muttering honestly, "Children these days." "Sorry, Irika-sensei, we're late. You see, we had been training and lost track of time." "Sakura, I swear, your lateness is rubbing off everyone. Who the heck comes late during their graduation exam?" Ino says apparently forehead does. Everyone snickers. "Shut up, Ino pig. No one asked for your opinion." Naruto snorts in amusement, while Hinata smiles. "What did you say, you billboard brow? Do you have defective ears or what?" "You." Irika yells silence. "Sakura, Naruto, Hinata, go to your seats and do your written exam. You won't be given an extra hour cause being half an hour late was your fault only." "But Irika-sensei." "No buts. Go to your seats and do your test silently or get out of the class and let others finish their paper." mutters as she walks towards her seat. Geez, I wonder who shoved a stick up as. Sakura. Squeaks. Sorry, Iruka-sensei. We'll now start the final exam. Iruka announced to the class after the written exam was over. When your name is called, proceed to the testing room. The final test will be on. Naruto crossed his fingers behind his back. Please be transformation jutsu. Even substitution jutsu would do. The clone jutsu, Iruka said after he glanced into his clipboard. No, Naruto wailed as he thumped his head on the table, a dark and gloomy aura surrounding him. That's my worst technique. He whimpered as he clutched his head and thought, great, I'm never gonna pass. In his panic, he never noticed the concerned glances thrown his way by his two other friends. Where is he? Sakura growled as she tapped her foot against the ground impatiently. Her leaf headband was worn over her forehead, over which she wore her orange goggles. She was waiting for Naruto to come out of the academy, so they could celebrate their graduation, but apparently, he hasn't come yet. He's late! She snapped and glared at the innocent passerbys, who quickly scurried away feeling the little killing intent she was emitting. Hinata, who was sitting under the tree, said nervously, Ayano, didn't you hear? He didn't pass. Sakura's eyes bugged out of her sockets as she snapped her head towards Hinata. What? Hinata nodded and said sadly, poor Naruto. Her pale, lilac eyes were filled with sadness and unshed tears. Sakura's eyes fell on the ground, and her expression turned blank. Both Hinata and Sakura knew how much Naruto had wanted to pass this time. He had failed the graduation exam twice, and had worked so hard with them so that he could pass this time with his friends. It must have been a huge blow to him that he didn't pass. She wished she could do something for him. But what? Well, the least we can do is to find him and comfort him for failing the exam thrice, Iner suggested to her. She nodded and turned to Hinata and said softly, come on, let's find him. Hinata stared up at Sakura, bewildered. What? Sakura gave her a sad smile and said, well, we can't leave him alone in his tough times, can we? After all, we're his friends. Hinata stared at her for a moment, and then she gave her a tentative smile. Right, she said softly as she stood up and brushed the dirt off her pants. Let's go. Hinata shifted uneasily and she glanced at Sakura, who was now almost dozing off. They both had decided to go to Naruto's apartment, thinking that he'd be here, but surprise, surprise, he wasn't here. They decided to wait for him, considering that he ought to come back to his dingy apartment sooner or later. But it seems like it'd be later, considering that he hasn't returned yet, and it was nearing midnight. Hinata knew she'd get a scolding from her father if she returned to her home late, but she wanted to at least talk to Naruto before returning back home. Hinata yawned for the 15th time that night, and was about to nod off too, when the door of the apartment opened. Hinata rubbed her eyes so as to stay somewhat awake and she shook Sakura awake too. Sakura yawned and stretched her arms, and moved her stiff neck a bit. Damn, sleeping on a chair was so uncomfortable. She never dozed off on a chair ever again. Hinata stood up and turned on the light as soon as footsteps echoed in the little apartment. Naruto turned round the corner as was met with the sight of his two best friends sitting on his chairs in his dining room. Yo! Sakura said lazily as she held up her hand in greeting, while Hinata's face turned red as she stuttered out a hi. Naruto blinked in confusion and said, what are you guys doing here? Sakura said, we were waiting for here to talk to you, and that reminds me, she then scowled as she stormed towards Naruto, and Naruto squeaked as he stepped back, seeing the angry look on her face. Sakura's chakra-laced fist met with Naruto's head, making him fly across the room and crash into the wall, creating a Naruto-sized hole in it. Where the heck have you been, you bastard? We've been waiting for you since this afternoon, Sakura roared in anger. Sakura! Hinata squeaked out and rushed towards Sakura, and held her tightly so as she cannot do more harm to her crush. Don't stop me, Hinata! I want to beat him to a pulp! Sakura yelled in anger as she struggled against Hinata's hold, but to no avail. Damn, for such a fragile girl, Hinata sure had a tight grip. And no, Sakura, Hinata said as she shook her head, and then pointed at something shiny that hung on Naruto's forehead. Look! Huh! Sakura said dumbly as she squinted her eyes to look at the thing on Naruto's forehead, only to freeze in surprise when she realized that it was the leaf headband. Where the hell did he get that? Did he steal it from someone or something? How would I know that? Sakura answered exasperatedly. Then ask him, damn it. I'm dying of curiosity here, Iner said as he threw a tantrum. So mature of you, Sakura said dryly. Shut up, he grumbled at her. Seeing that Sakura will no longer assault her crush, Hinata quietly released her from her hold. Sakura quickly tiptoed towards Naruto and peeled him from the wall, where a Naruto-sized crater was dented in the wall, and Hinata's sweat dropped at her actions. Naruto groaned as he massaged his head, muttering about stupid pink-haired monsters with super strength. "What did you say?" Sakura glowered darkly as she cracked her knuckles sadistically. Naruto froze as he gulped in fear and sweat dripped at the back of his neck. He stuttered, as Sakura, I am meant why your MMO monster strength and not you. Die! Sakura snarled as she pounced on him, and a scream of terror rang around Konoha. Poor Hinata was too late to save her crush from getting bruised by Sakura's fists. See, congratulations on BB becoming a G-Genin, Naruto. Blushes a deep red. Thank you, Hinata, says cheerfully while cradling the bump on his forehead. That's not the point, Hinata, says angrily. He stole the forbidden scroll. It's not that much of a big deal, Sakura whines. No, it is, you dumbass, hisses angrily, and hits him over the head, making him yelp in pain. Who thought you'd be dumb enough to steal the forbidden scroll from the Hokage's archives? But everything did end out well in the end, says as he scratched the back of his head sheepishly. You're an idiot. Facepalms, I still can't believe the Hokage let you go like that even after you stole the forbidden scroll, and even made you a genin. Cheers, I'm just awesome like that. Mutters with an eye roll, you're sorely mistaken. Hey! I agree with SS Sakura. Not you too, Hinata. Oh Kami, Iruka-sensei's gonna kill me today, Sakura said as she panted while she rushed to the academy. You see, she had woken up early today so as not to be late on the day of her team placements, but on the way she got sight of old lady Natsumi carrying groceries, and she didn't have it in her heart to not help the struggling old lady, and then she helped a little girl who had been crying because she was lost, and then she carried old man Mamoru to his house because his feet were hurting him, and now she was late, like a lot. She swore she even saw Hinata with her new team and her sensei. She wouldn't be surprised if her sensei and her team had went on without her, considering that she had missed her team placements, and it was highly likely that the academy would be deserted by now. So, imagine her surprise when she barged into her class, muttering out an apology and an excuse for being late, and found Naruto and Sasuke, of all the people, sitting in the class. Well, that was before the eraser hit her in the head. Her shoulders tensed as she glanced down at the eraser which had fallen from above. Someone had set up the eraser over the door in such a way that it fell on the person who opened the door and stepped in. She clenched her fists as her face turned red in anger, and she stared at the culprit. She first glanced at Sasuke, who was snickering at her expense, but he immediately shut up and paled when she gave him a death glare. She then shifted her eyes towards Naruto, who looked as if he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Laugh, because his prank worked, take that you smug Uchiha, but cry, because it was Sakura on whom his prank was unintentionally unleashed. Oh, he was so dead. Realizing that it can only be Naruto who could have planned such a silly prank, she gave him a sickly sweet smile as she pulled out a kunai from her pocket and twirled it between her fingers nonchalantly, but Naruto gulped as he recognized the stabbing patterns in which she twirled the kunai. He was really doomed. Naruto, she said in a saccharine sweet voice, though her darkened emerald eyes scared him a lot, I know you know that I like pranks, but not when they're pulled on me. You're so dead, idiot, Sasuke muttered under his breath, but loud enough for the two of them to head. So Inner, any plans on how to make Naruto's life a living hell? However, Inner didn't answer her question. Usually, he'd start ranting about various ways how to maim someone, but right now, he was unusually silent and tense. Something was definitely wrong. Inner, she asked in concern. What's wrong? How can I put this? A gruff, lazy voice said from behind her, startling her. Why the heck does this voice sound so distantly familiar yet different? Startled, she whirled around and jumped away into the class, stepping away from the weird man standing before her. The man looked in his late 20s, and had gravity-defying gray hair, and a mask covering the lower half of his face up to his nose. His leaf headband was tilted over his left eye, and his right eye was black in color. He wore typical Jonin uniform, and his posture was lazy, but she had a feeling it was all an act. And would anyone explain to her why the hell was she seeing an image of a stiff and formal teenager version of this person, having his mask, but both his eyes were visible? She shook her head to shake away the image forming in her mind. No time to waste on the weird things her brain conjures up sometimes. Besides, maybe she should focus on what this person was saying instead of thinking of things that even she didn't understand. The silver-haired man gave them a closed-eye smile and said cheerfully, my first impression of this group. There was a dramatic pause as the three genin stared at this man, who must be their new sensei. You're a bunch of idiots. The three of them face-palmed at his words. Sakura didn't understand what was wrong with her inner. Her inner was a great censor. If this man was standing just behind her, why the heck her inner didn't warn her? Why was he silent all this time? And now to think of it, where were funny remarks and rude comments about Sakura's lack of awareness for getting pranked by her orange menace of a best friend? By now her inner would have been roaring in laughter. Instead, he was as silent as a teaspoon. Seems like inner doesn't like this new person. Well, if inner doesn't like him, then she won't waste her time on her new sensei either. If inner doesn't like someone, it must be for some good reason, considering the fact that inner was a really good judge of character, and he usually likes everyone. So yes, she didn't regret when she retorted to her new sensei, the feelings are mutual, sensei. The Ninja Academy was a multi-floor building that also included the mission assigning room, the Hokage's office, and there were many rumors that even the ANBU headquarters was somewhere in the building, though no one really knew if it was true or not, considering the fact that the ANBU headquarters location was kept a secret from the civilians and even the ninja population of the Leaf, for various reasons. On the room of the multi-floor building was a garden filled with trees and flowers of various kinds. It was in this tree garden that our newly formed Team 7 was sitting along with their new sensei. Kakashi Hatake roamed his eyes over the three genins with a nostalgic look. The stiff and formal way in which the last Uchiha sat, as well as the cold expression on his face, reminded him of himself when he has been of that age, well before that incident happened. His eyes fell on the blonde boy sitting at the farther right, sitting casually, with no care in the world. He looked so much like Minato-sensei that it hurts to even look at him. The air of nonchalance around him reminded him of Obito. He didn't even spare the third member of this team a glance. He had fleetingly heard that she was a medic, hence she was bound to resemble Rin. He didn't want to look at her and be reminded of the fact that he had been the one to kill Rin, with his own hands. Kakashi's Chidori had pierced through Rin's chest, as she stared at him with wide eyes and then coughed up blood. He shook his head to shake away the image that always appeared in his nightmares. He then focused on the genin sitting in front of him and said, why don't you introduce yourselves? Things you like, things you hate, dreams for the future, hobbies, things like that. He then shrugged nonchalantly. Why don't you tell us about you first? Naruto suggested, and Sakura nodded at his suggestion while Sasuke just ate shined. The silver-haired jonin stared at them lazily and drawled out, me? I'm Kakashi Hatake. Things I like and things I hate. He tapped his chin, as if contemplating what to say, and then said cheerfully, I don't feel like telling you that. The three genin's sweat dropped. My dreams for the future, he paused and then said in his annoyingly cheerful tone, never really thought about it. As for my hobbies, he said oh so helpfully, I have lots of hobbies. Baka. Her inner snorted in amusement, making Sakura's lips twitch upwards. Her inner would be fine, if his usual attitude was anything to go by. That was totally useless. Sasuke snorted. Yeah. Naruto exclaimed. All he really told us was his name. The silver-haired jonin then turned to Naruto and said, okay, your turn. Naruto beamed as he introduced himself. Believe it. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like instant ramen in a cup, and I really like the ramen Irika-sensei got me at the Ichiraka noodle shop. But I hate the 3 minutes you have to wait after you pour the water in the ramen cup. My hobby is eating different kinds of ramen and comparing them. By the time he finished his ramen rant, Sakura was already dozing off, snoring loudly, while Sasuke contemplated whether or not to wake her up, since she was drooling on his shorts. Thankfully, Naruto solved his problem. Hey! Naruto yelled, offended, when he realized that his best friend fell asleep while he had been telling everyone how awesome ramen is. He shook her awake, all the while yelling, you aren't allowed to sleep during my introduction. Sakura yawned and said sleepily, then say about something other than ramen. I'm fed up with your ramen rants. How can you say that? Ramen is the food of gods. It is. Before he could continue with his ramen rant, the jonin cut him off. And what's your dream? Naruto immediately shifted his attention towards their new sensei and smiled brightly at him as he said, my future dream is to be the greatest Hokage. Then the whole village will start respecting me and start treating me like somebody important. Sakura stared at Naruto with wide eyes. Wow, so I have a rival for Hokage's seat. That makes things quite interesting, doesn't it? Her inner said with amusement. Kakashi sighed and then glanced at Sasuke and said, alright, you next. Sasuke folded his arms and said, my name is Sasuke Uchiha. I hate a lot of things, and I don't particularly like anything. Yeah, like that explains a lot, Sakura said with an eye roll, while Naruto snickered at that. Sasuke just glared at them, which the both of them returned wholeheartedly. Oh boy, Kakashi thought, it's gonna take a lot of work to make this team even functional. Sasuke looked away from them and continued, what I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I am going to restore my clan and destroy a certain someone. I'm gonna restore my clan and destroy a certain someone. Sakura mimicked him in a high-pitched tone as she made weird faces, and Naruto couldn't help but roll on the ground in laughter. Sasuke just blushed in embarrassment, and death glared Sakura, who just snickered along with Naruto. Kakashi sighed, and for the first time that day, he looked at Sakura and paused when he noticed her attire, as well as the orange goggles that rested on her forehead above her leaf headband. She was wearing a red undershirt, over which she wore dark blue jacket and red shorts. She attached a small pocket to her left leg, and wore long blue socks and blue ninja sandals to complete the attire. If he ignored the pink hair and green eyes, as well as the fact that she's a girl, he realized that she looked like Obito. Oh, it's my turn now, Sakura said excitedly as she smiled. Hi, my name is Sakura Haruno. I love candies, especially the multi-flavored candies that Granny buys especially for me. Her eyes had a dreamy look as she said this, making the three men's sweat drop. Well, someone was obsessed with candies. I like dango, ramen, training with Granny Sayuri, pranking people, helping out elderly people, and my best friends Hinata and Naruto. I don't hate anyone or anything, per se, but I do dislike Beetroot, Hinata's cousin Niji, because that bastard always acts so high and mighty, people who treat Naruto badly for God knows why. At this, Naruto glanced away from her with a pained look in his eyes, and those people who think ninjas as tools. My hobbies are training, and pranking, I guess, she said with a shrug. She then glanced at the Hokage mountain, and stared at the four carved faces of the Hokage and said with a bright smile and a soft voice, and my dream is to be a Hokage who doesn't force their people to take missions they don't like, as well as to bring peace to this world. He stared at her dumbly, and for a moment, he saw his former teammate Obito, instead of the pink-haired girl sitting before him. It was as if Obito himself has come back from death to torture him. However, the moment was ruined by Naruto himself. Wait out? Naruto exclaimed as he pointed at Sakura and yelled, why didn't you tell me this before? A twitch appeared over her forehead, and she said, I would have if you had ever stopped to listen to others instead of ranting about ramen. That is not true. A vein throbbed over her forehead, and she tried her best not to punch the blonde senseless. Their new sensei cleared his throat so as to grab their attention and said, you're each unique and you have your own ideas. He then paused and said, we'll have our first mission tomorrow. That definitely got him their attention. What kind of mission are we going to have? Naruto asked eagerly, and even the other two looked at him expectantly, and with various degrees of enthusiasm. He inwardly chuckled, imagining the looks on their faces when he tells them about the survival exercise. A survival exercise, Kakashi answered. What? They asked dumbly. Mimics Kakashi's voice, tomorrow you better skip breakfast or else you'll puke. Scoffs indignantly, how does he expect us to do the test with empty stomach? I think it's better than puking, mutters dejectedly. HN. Ugh, I hate our new sensei. Scowls. Well, who cares? Just don't be late tomorrow, Sakura, or he'll fail us too. Believe it! Exclaims in a loud tone. Grumbles, ugh, stop glaring at me, Sasuke. Fine. I'll try my best to come on time tomorrow. The next day. At 5 a.m. Naruto yawned as he trudged sleepily towards Training Ground 7, trying his best not to fall asleep. When he reached the designed spot, he saw Sasuke leaning against a tree, standing in all his Uchiha glory. Naruto looked around and asked out loud, where's Sakura? Sasuke shrugged. Naruto sat down under a tree and leaned against it, and wondered, do you think she'll come on time? Sasuke snorted and said, I highly doubt it. At 6 a.m. Sasuke and Naruto waited for their teammate and their sensei to come, all the while fighting the drowsiness. At 7 a.m. both of them fell asleep leaning against each other. At 8 a.m. 9 a.m. 10 a.m. Sorry I'm late. I got up late and then on my way here I was helping old man Kazuo to open his bookstore and lost track of time. Sakura apologized as soon as she rushed into the training ground. No. 7. But blinked in surprise when she found both of them sleeping against each other under the shade of a tree. Ah, so cute, she fangirled at the sight before her, making her inner snort. You're such a weirdo. I'm not. R2. I am not. R2 dash. Shut up. She roared as she scowled and walked towards her teammates to wake them up. She took a deep breath and yelled in a loud tone, Ramen. Where? Where? Naruto immediately jumped, awake, as he glanced to and fro, looking for Ramen. Sasuke, who had been leaning against the blonde menace, fell on the ground over his back, and woke up with a hiss. Where's the ramen, Sakura? Naruto asked Sakura with a puppy dog look. Sakura just sweat dropped at his antics, while Sasuke glared at him. Before Naruto could say anything more, a poof of smoke later, their new sensei appeared before them. He held up his hand lazily as he said, Yo. Morning, everyone. Sakura glared at their new sensei and pointed her finger at him and said accusingly, You're late. Sasuke snorted and muttered, Look here, the pot's calling the kettle black. He wisely shut up when Sakura glared at him, while Naruto snickered. The silver-haired Jonin scratched the back of his head sheepishly and said, Well, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way. The three genins stared at him incredulously. Naruto muttered that excuse is even worse than Sakura's. Their Jonin sensei then cleared his throat and clapped his hands cheerfully. Well then, let's get started. The Jonin unsealed an alarm clock from a scroll and placed it on one of the 3 wooden stumps in the training ground and said, Here we go, it's set for noon. He then pulled out 2 bells from his pocket and explained to the 3 genins, Your assignment is very simple. You just have to take these bells from me. That's all there is to it. If you can't get it by noon, you go without lunch. At that very moment, their stomachs grumbled, making the 3 of them blush in embarrassment. The Jonin then smirked sadistically and said, And you'll be tied to those posts, and you'll watch while I eat my lunch in front of you. The 3 of them glared at him. Aren't you going to ask him why there are only 2 bells instead of 3? Her inner asked in amusement, making her wonder what was so darn funny. Wait a minute. There's 3 of us, how come there's 2 bells? Sakura asked as she tilted her head and narrowed her eyes. Their sensei gave them a closed-eye smile, and said cheerfully, Well, that way at least one of you will end up tied to a post and ultimately disqualified for failing to complete the mission. He jingled the bells and said in his god-awful cheerful tone, And that one goes back to the academy. He then paused and muttered loud enough for them to hear. Then again, all 3 of you could flog out too. The 3 genins glowered at him. He ignored them and continued, You can use any weapons, including shuriken. If you're not prepared to kill me, you won't be able to take the bell. So, you mean that? Sakura paused as she realized what he meant to say at the end of this exercise. One of us would definitely be sent back to the academy? That's right, he said cheerfully. Sasuke and Naruto tensed at that. None of them wanted to go back to the academy. Sakura clenched her fists and said, Well then, there's no need for this test then. The 3 males stared at her as she looked up and said, Because I agreed to go back to the academy. What? Kakashi asked dumbly. He hadn't expected that to happen. Well, since at the end of this test one of us is going to sent back to the academy anyways, why not I make your decision simpler and but out of your way so these 2 get to become a genin? Sakura said with a smile. But why, Sakura? Naruto asked, in confusion, not understanding why she was refusing to even do the test, and giving up before even participating. You said you wanted to be Hokage, so why? Sakura turned to stare at him, and then rolled her eyes and said, The Hokage's post isn't going anywhere, Naruto. Sometime in the near future, I know that I'll be Hokage, no matter what. She then smiled warmly at him and said, It doesn't matter if I become genin now, or the next year, what matters is that none of you 2 are sent back to the academy. You 2 are my friends. If any one of you is sent back to the academy because of me, I'd feel like I've abandoned you. She then turned around to walk away, but paused when she heard her new sensei say, Kakashi, to gain some semblance of sanity, because hell, his mind was shattering, her words were so close to what Obito used to believe, and that stunned him and muttered without thinking, So you're going to abandon your mission? You're going to break rules? What kind of ninja are you? Sakura turned her head a bit, and Kakashi's eye widened when sunlight beamed reflected from the orange goggles residing over her forehead. She then glared at him, and his breathing was knocked out because she looked so much like Obito at that moment, but paused as she turned a bit, and said, her voice having a hoarser tint to it, Sensei, I believe that in the ninja world, those who break rules are scum. Oh Kami, he was having a heart attack now. There's no way she is. But those who abandon their friends are even worse than scum. Her eyes turned sad, and glazed over, as if she was remembering something. I'm scum anyway, so I will choose to break the rules. If doing that somehow makes me less of a true shinobi, then I'll just go and crush all the real shinobi. Obito? Naruto and Sasuke shared a glance. An unreadable look passed between them. Sighing, they both turned and walked towards Sakura. Where? Snap out of it, Kakashi. He cleared his throat and stuttered out, where are you two going? We refuse to be on a team without Sakura. Sasuke muttered as he placed his hands in his pockets and glanced away. That's right, Naruto exclaimed. Where was Sakura in this? There's no way we both want to be in a team with each other, especially if Sakura isn't there with us. Believe it. That's why you can go to hell for all we care. We can wait a year to be on a team together and complete our dreams. We don't need you to be our Jonin-sensei, Sasuke said coldly. Yeah. You're lame anyways, Naruto said loudly as he made a face. Kakashi stared at the three of them, having a déjà vu moment. It was like his former team was back with him. And all it took to remind him of his former team was a certain pink-haired girl. He stared at her, dumbfounded. He wondered if this girl was his former teammate, reincarnated? He then shook his head, scolding himself for having such a ridiculous thought. That's stupid. Such things never happen in real life. Besides, it's just a coincidence. A big coincidence at that. He blinked out of his stupor and saw the three of them walk away from him. Wait! He called out to them, and they halted and turned to him. He gave them a closed-eye smile and said, "You pass." Cue a 2-minute silence. Finally, after some time, Naruto whispered to his two friends, did we broke him or something? Sasuke shrugged and said, who knows? Maybe I should call an ambulance, Sakura wondered. Kakashi gave them an offended look and said, I said, you pass. How? Sakura said dryly. I thought we made it clear that we forfeited. He smiled at them, though it was hidden by his mask, and said the lesson behind this survival exercise was teamwork. But there were only 2 bells. Realization dawned on Sakura as she stared at the 2 bells in his hand. So you were purposely trying to pit us against one another. She scowled and said, Shay, he's such a jerk. Naruto yelled, see? I told you. He's such a lame sensei. Sasuke glared at him and folded his arms. Kakashi said in a cheerful tone, congratulations. You're the first squad that ever succeeded. He then stared at them and said in a serious tone, the others did exactly what I said and fell into every trap. They couldn't think